All right, welcome everyone to the Fated Connections Path of Exile Community Podcast, episode number 96. Today we're going to look at things from a little bit a different angle. We got some great additions to the game that we're going to talk about. Like there's the new patch out with the 7 unique relics that constitute basically challenge runs for the thing. And there's also some, I think, Resolve now reduces damage to Resolve is reduced further if you're in melee range, and a number of small changes that we're going to talk about. And we're going to look at things from a competitive angle. And for that, we got 2 big boy competitive guys here. Welcome with us, no other than the Tytykiller and the cArn. How's it going, guys?
Yo, it's going pretty good. How about you?
Pretty decent.
Not so great. I died yesterday. About 2 days ago.
What did get you? What happened?
Feared. Kinda. I got like a wormhole plus double flame blast in the middle of a shit show where I couldn't see anything. So I couldn't see the wormhole, so I got sucked in the double flame blast, the power flame blast. Kind of sad.
Oh, I'm gonna bring up a clip of that. I'm gonna find it.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. Also, like I mean, I kind of needed a rip like this because I always underestimate fear because I never died to it. I've killed it like many times and I never died to it. So I was like, I just walked in like casually, like, okay, I'm just doing the fear, real quick.
On, like, so you needed a reality check.
Yeah, you need to get readjusted.
Yeah, it was like day 5 gear too. So it was good gear, but I have to take it a bit seriously. Like I think that was very unlucky rip, but I could have avoided this by just putting all my attention on Cortex. Because that's like the worst case scenario. You do Fiat and the first 2 are at 0 in Cortex. That's actually the absolute worst case scenario.
Yep. I'm always more worried about Zeri than Cortex. I don't know why.
No, I mean, 0 alone is fine. 0 plus Cortex is completely fucked because if every more wormhole you have to log or you die, pretty much.
I think the reason I'm more worried about it is because I exclusively only ever do it Zeri when I'm doing Fiat.
Oh, that's so mean.
Whereas Cortex, I've done hundreds of because.
No way,
you need to do it Zeri to do Fiat. How's that happen?
Well, yeah, but you just like go AFK, right? You just like you're literally asleep because the boss is so easy. So it's not a big deal. But if you're doing Cortex for the fear, then
I mean it's also easy. What do you mean? Cortex is the same. My witness Cortex, my Cortex that I witnessed had, because I don't know why. I don't know if it's normal, but the mods on Cortex are doubled right now, like by default. Without the Uber Cortex node. So my Cortex had 200% AoE and like fucking like 900% crit and 90% crit multi with power charges or something.
I thought that was normal.
Yeah, no. But I just walked in, I was like, wait, hold on, what are these mods? And I was like, I did it anyway because it's just Cortex. You just berserk and kill him. But and my Uber 0 is actually a lot harder than my Cortex, even though that Cortex had like crazy mods, kind of like really rippy mods. Like Uber 0 sometimes does some weird stuff. When you play melee, you can't just.
I like doing that though. Yeah, I know how it is.
Yeah.
Whatever that was.
Yeah, If you know.
Are you still on your favorite build on the Bone Shatter?
I'm on a break right now. I haven't logged in since I died. That was a depressing death. That was like I was just like in the middle of having fun, doing Sanctums. Started doing all my bosses to try to farm a Void Forge, and then this happened. So it was really depressing. It's like the worst time to die. Like you finish gearing, you're like, all right, time to do the fun stuff, and then first fear and I died. Like it was the first time I died to feared. Kind of sad.
That's rough.
Yeah, so I just did nothing. I just slept and watched anime. I mean, not.
No.
I watch stuff and I've been playing God of War all day, basically. I might just get back tomorrow.
Yeah.
Not a week.
No. But I mean, you went really hard since League start, probably, right? I mean, so
Yeah, and
good
like and before League 2, like all the events. It's been like race after race after race after race. And then League started, so and then I died to that stupid invisible DD. I don't know where.
Yo, cArn, I don't know if you have the same problem I do, but because there's like no event, I'm almost like bored at the moment because it's like it's just a game. It's like my brain is like messed up.
I was having fun, but I think a couple more days and I would start being like, okay, well, now what? You know, I would have finished all my boss sets and then I would be like, okay.
Like I was having a lot of fun day one, and I can recognize that it's not a fault of the game at all because the game itself is pretty fun. But I myself was not having as much fun because there was no event, there's no
race. It's very
there's
different.
no race.
What do you mean? Like Ruthless just got released. First level 100 Ruthless race.
Nah,
okay, that's
I don't want to walk around. If I wanted to get my balls stepped on, I'd just find someone else to do it. Besides Chris.
Seriously. If there was just all movement skills were still in the game, but they all had a 30-second cooldown, so you couldn't like use them to be speedy, I'd be a little more into it.
I don't even think they need to do that. Like you still need to drop, because if they just made it drop only just like and make them as rare as auras, you still need to drop you still need to drop it. You need to drop the correct one that you can actually use. Because if you're playing with the wand, you can leap slam. You get a leap slam, you're a character that uses the wand. You're like, okay, what do I do now? I
was watching Manny. I was watching Manny, and he dropped I think it was a determination, super long, over a week into playing or something like that, and he lost his mind out of excitement. Imagine if that was shield charge or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly. I was really sad that you would not get the excitement of dropping. If you're playing Slayer and you drop a leap slam, you're like, oh my god, you fucking do.
Even getting a dash. Imagine getting excited about getting the dash gem at level 60.
Smoke mine. Oh my god, even smoke mine, you get excited about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of sad. I don't know. I feel like they should just leave it be. Like movement, I don't think is something that they should restrict in something like Ruthless. Like it's a way to express your skill. Like they said, they want top. They're wanna have a challenging experience where where scarcity is one thing, and then you can the good players can express their skills. Shine, but you can't do that without skill, with the movement skills. Against a lot of the mechanics in the game. So I think it just goes against what they actually said they want to accomplish.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I talked to someone who used to play a lot in the past and talked a bit about maybe you enjoy Ruthless because it's a little bit slower, a little bit like the game back then, and the gem acquisition feels similar, but they just told me we played two mudflats and I was bored by that time because the game is still the same. You still run into the same problem of needing to kill everything before it kills you. And yeah.
I still think it was fun though. I had my fun. But I don't see myself playing this more than once in a while. Maybe even once a league might be too much. Maybe once in a couple times a year or something even. Because it was still fun because it was different problems to solve. You built your characters very differently. I was playing I played Slayer, I played Melee, it was what it was. And then I rerolled Lightning Conic Elementalist because I had dropped an Impulsar on day 2 or day 1 or something. So I just rerolled that, and the way you build the character is very, very different because you don't have auras and there's all these limitations. You don't have movement skills, so you build it very differently. It was still interesting and fun to adapt.
I still think it was a mistake to release it at the start of the league rather than doing it midway through the league to reinvigorate the league.
If it was 2 months in, I'd probably give it a go.
If it was a month and a half in, people would have logged in, dude. People start to really taper off around that month and a half to 2 month situation, and they just take a month off. But imagine if Ruthless came out, how many people would come back for a week?
Yeah, for sure.
Instead now there's almost nobody. Yeah, I might try it again, or I might try it. Period, because I've never made a character in Ruthless because it just looks like cock and ball torture.
Neither am I.
And so maybe I'll try it, maybe I won't. But I wasn't interested in the beta. I'm not very interested in playing right now, so
I might give it a go. If we ever get a league as bad as last one again, maybe I'll Maybe I'll use that.
What last week? We didn't have a last league.
Actually, we had the combinators last time, right? We just had a really long break.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was just recombinators, and then there was nothing in between that.
Like recombinators, and then it was a RuneScape, I think, and then it was.
Yeah, it's RuneScape League. That's right.
Yep. Next time they skip making a league, and it's like there's a really long time, I might try Ruthless then.
I think that's a great point, Tyta. Like dropping it like halfway through to reinvigorate the league is actually would have been the move.
All right.
I think it links to the additional content being added to the league after the launch day. Like the patch that we got now. I don't remember, did they do that in any of the past league? Like maybe it's like one or two features that they promised that they'd give with the league, but like we never get this amount of like content added after the launch with like the sort of posts that we got, the promotional hype around it.
I'm not sure. I don't think so. Is
that the way to go for the future, or is that like something that should have been shipped right with the league as it came out?
I don't think it matters. I think it's fine.
Wait, did the sound break again? Sorry, is this my headphones? Or
you should be good.
I'm sorry. You say something? Oh no, I'm not. It's just my headphones being off. I'm an idiot.
Well, I was just thinking I was gonna give somebody else the floor, but here's the thing with adding content is they can always add content later, but they can't really like remove content, especially when people enjoy that content or it's like broken. Like they couldn't just like remove parts of Harvest during Harvest League because that would like make the league worse, especially if they were like really broken, which there were a lot of things that were really broken. There's been really broken things in a lot of leagues, and they can't just like take that away from people, and so they can't add in these like really strong relics and stuff without having explicit time to really consider their choices. So I think it's fine to add stuff a little while later. There's also a handful of people that will just kind of look at the league, be like, oh, that's not very interesting for me, and I don't think adding or removing anything will change their opinion anyways. So for the people that do stick around and they do enjoy PoE, I think that adding content is, it's fine. I think it's all right.
Yeah, I actually kind of prefer it.
Really?
Yeah, I kind of prefer it if it's like, because there's not many times they've done this ever, like
right.
But when it's like most of the league is given to us, and then they're like a week or two in, there's like a patch that adds a pretty meaningful amount of extra stuff. I kind of love it. That could be the default, and I'd be actually pretty happy with it. Especially if we were like expecting it to come.
I think that was planned. I think they ran out of time. At least it looked from how the league start went, and
I agree.
Like everything that went down, it looked like they just ran out of time for a lot of stuff.
I think if there's not enough time in the development cycle to meet everything that they wanted to do, I think it's perfectly okay for them to ship it a little bit later. And I think that this league is a good example to show them that, like, hey, that's okay. We don't mind it because, more content is more content. Nobody's going to be mad about that.
I think you should always do that if they end up running out of time. Just, do it later.
Yep.
Add later.
Like, it didn't interest me at all. So I wasn't like, oh, I should hop back on and log in again. But, like I pushed to, I think, like 97, like day 2, day 3, and then got a little bored, tapered off from there, and I'll log in, do some maps, but for the most part, I'm playing Dragonflight instead, watching anime. Or I was watching the World Cup.
Of course, that's not as controversial. But you do speed runs, right? You do log in and go.
I log in for Act 5 runs, but the league is horrible for it. So
yeah. How long would
any?
Yeah, go for it.
I was saying I didn't do any Sanctum until I hit 100.
I tried Sanctum, and then I tried it again, and then I was like, no, this is not good for a 100 push. And then I tested it for an Act 5 run. I was like, what if this is the tech? And then I was like, this is not the tech. It's actually better to play in standard on speedrunning because the little orb will like suck you in while you're leaf climbing over it.
Yeah. Oh my god. Oh my god!
Does it break layouts?
Lost like a couple hours. I legit lost probably a couple hours on every character, maybe more. Like, oh my god!
As far as I know, it doesn't break layouts, but sometimes there will be like a spawn point where like You remember when Metamorph could just barely spawn in just the right location where like it would block you and you'd have to move out of the way and like spontain somewhere else? It kind of does that sometimes.
Also, I was running Toxic Serious, so it's like I could not avoid this. Like most of the time, I just sleep slam into it, and there's nothing I can do about it because gotta foot on the gas. Exactly. What can you do?
I kind of enjoyed it on day one because I thought the animation looked great and it like felt cool to be sucked in, and it also like I really gave them props for making it so that when you click store, you instantly got ported out again. So I was like willing to take the suck in, but like when I wanted to skip the mechanic, I really like noticed that like you just shield charge into it, like somehow it just magnetically attracts you, and then you just end up getting into it even you don't want to.
I don't even think the auto suck in would be bad if it wasn't like an 8-year animation to bring you in.
Yeah, like but they need some sort of transition, I think.
Yeah, but
I do agree. Really if it was just slightly shorter. Yeah, if it was just like, boom, you're in, or you could leave. Like, if it took me in and I could just click on my character once and it would be like, oh, okay, no problem, man. Instead I gotta wait for the animation, then I gotta click to the left.
What I'd really like is for it to be about a quarter the transition length, because it's way too long. And to have a bindable hotkey to store my things so that I can enter, press my hotkey, and just get ported out. And then just be back in my map zooming. That'd be great. That'd be big.
I think as long as this like hey, we're grabbing you out of your map stays with like this is the current league mechanic, I think that's okay. Because I think that like, hey, we really want people to interact with our league mechanic. As long as it's not completely awful, right? Then it's fine for me to be dragged out of my map. Like even if I'm not going to use it, like I didn't use this league mechanic, it's kind of fine for me to be dragged out. My worry is that every league mechanic going forward would be like, hey, come here, hey, come do this thing, hey, King, come do our league mechanic, and there's like 7 of them in 3.27, and every mechanic since then has grabbed you out of the map.
Yeah. That would bother me every league they make the radius a little bit bigger.
Imagine if Harvest did that too.
Yeah, like if you got dragged by Harvest, or if Ritual like automatically started. Like I don't like the design going forward, but it's fine for just this league. I'll accept it.
Would you be okay with it if it was always just the active league? Like if this went core, you would have to click on it, but the new league does something automatically or sucks you in or whatever.
Yeah, sure. That's pretty much the point I'm trying to make here is like as long as it's just the current active league that's going on, that's fine.
I'd be alright with that, to be honest.
I wouldn't advocate for it though, because it feels in a way like, hey, you have to come do our mechanic. Like, please do our mechanic. Instead, we should want to do the mechanic, right? Instead of being dragged.
It shouldn't like literally suck you in. It should like suck you in metaphorically speaking.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, I like the league mechanic. Like, I had fun with it. It was okay.
Right. Yeah. For me, I'm basically playing standard for the next 3 months, but it's alright.
You don't enjoy that at all?
No, not really. I think it's cool.
Standard.
It's too slow. Yeah, last league was definitely standard league. 3 months.
Yeah, standard so into 6 months. 6 months.
6 months of standard. Hey, that's alright. Honestly, guys, hear me out. Right? If you're like, full-time worker, you've got like, 3 jobs, 4 kids, 2 wives, like standard isn't actually that bad because you don't have the time to like level a new character. You don't have the time to like get all the currency because the way the game currently operates is that the early game and like leveling up and stuff and getting your character to a point where it's well established is a lot worse than it used to be. Like it's a lot slower, your character's a lot weaker, you need a lot more defenses, but later on the game is better than it has been previously, in my opinion. Like once you're full set up, once you're full juiced, you're like Grimro status geared up. Yeah, the progression is a bit worse, but the overall game is better, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. That's my one of my biggest problems with the game right now is the progression. Like when I died, that's why it was so depressing because I died after finishing my gear, and I was like, okay, I don't want to go through all this again. I don't want to go through all this again.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel.
It's like before you were like it's fine, by the time you die, if you level 100, like I was like I died at 96 and then I level 100. It's like by that time I would have had like, I don't know, before you would have like 5 sets of gear ready, like 5 weapons sitting around, like 5 full sets of gear ready. You don't even know which one to take. It's like you want your orange suit or your purple suit. You don't know. You just pick whichever you want. But now it's like, no, you just have a black suit and that's it. And once you lose it, you lose it.
Yeah. This felt kind of the same way where like progressing through the Atlas feels really bad, but once you get to the very end of it, the game is like better than it used to be.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know if you guys agree.
Yeah, I agree. I think the game just keeps getting better in general. Like the end game keeps getting better. Although, yeah, this patch there's some problems with end game.
I would agree that
go ahead.
Really?
the item progression is frustrating in the mid range. Absolutely. And yeah, you get less good stuff, like in overall. But I kind of like the like thing being challenging. I just not mean to cut you off, but just I always find it puzzling that like Act 1 and 2 seem to be the hardest part of the game.
It's like the difficulty is
Actually
like
true.
Here's mudflats, and then here's like the rest of the game, and then it's like uber elder, and you're like back up again.
It's literally like mudflats feared for me. It's like if I can get through mudflats without dying, I am safe. I'm good. Let's go.
And like they seem to take into account that like new players kill a lot and you overlevel a lot in Act 1 and maybe that. But then new players also, don't understand support gems and play like one link heavy strike into Merville. So
I coached over like a brand new player this league. She first started playing the game like just literally right before the last league ended. To like, get a feel for this league so she wouldn't ask a million questions on league start. And her very first playthrough, me and my friends didn't tell her anything. We explained questions that she asked, but we didn't like tell her how to play optimally. Literally just will let her play. She killed every monster in every zone. I'm talking like remaining 0 levels of like killer monster. And her campaign was like, it was like 30 hours long, but she barely
still faster
died.
Than IGN.
Still faster than IGN. It was like fine. She didn't have like any difficulty ramp because she's 9 levels over every zone. It was perfectly fine. And then when we started telling her like, hey, you need to go to mudflats here, and you're gonna skip everything on the Twilight Strand and the coast, she instantly died like 7 times in a row. And it was like, I mean, that's not entirely the new player experience. This is the experience that you get when you've played the game a bit, right? And you know that you should skip everything on the coast, but the developers want you to play in a certain way. So the argument that like brand new players get farmed isn't exactly true, just because a new player will kill some stuff on coast. They will get some extra items. They will be a little bit more geared for mudflats than any speedrunner ever will.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, I've noticed like the game like just stays the same difficulty anyway. It's like if the game is easier, then we try to go faster, and then it's basically it's like it doesn't matter how hard or easy the game is. Like the easier it is, the faster you go, and the difficulty just stays the same basically. It's like every time I play Gauntlet, like we go a bit slower, and it's difficult. But then when you go back into the normal game, like okay, it's gonna be easy. But then you try to go like twice as fast as you can. Yeah,
and then
so it's like
that's exactly
7 levels under
it's
level.
like you're under the same you're under the same danger because you go at way faster pace.
Yep.
You said that the Forbidden Sanctum or Forbidden. Wow, I'm blanking. The Forbidden Sanctum is bad for Act 5 races, but it's also bad for level 100 pushes. Is there any competitive context in which the Sanctum would be good? Do you think Sanctum would be good in Gauntlet? Yeah, that would be what I mean.
Yeah, Gauntlet.
Yeah.
You want the relics, right? You're gearing up for a Ziri. You're gonna want some max res or something, or you're gonna want like some sort of juice.
Like it's pretty decent for making currency too, but it's just not.
You get some raw currency, sure, but it's not. You do get a nice XP payout at the end of each floor. The issue is you don't get to the floor. You're basically, not doing anything. You're basically doing 1/8 of a map. So Yeah, the issue is just the time investment, and also you have to have some pretty good single target. I've noticed doing a lot of my Sanctum experiences. So,
well, all you need is single target. So,
yeah,
don't need anything else.
That's fair.
It's also like it's a very, very ramping league. Like it's actually not that good or rewarding when you first start doing it until you like collect some relics and can actually get like decently far into it. And it like ramps up and becomes more and more fun and more rewarding. But if you're just racing, you don't even have time for the ramp up.
Yeah.
Like you'll finish Act 10 before I get to Act 5. Like it's not, you don't have time for that. There's no ramp time. You just need to be gone.
I mean, it's the same with like almost every league mechanic. There's a very few league mechanics where when you do for short races where you actually do them, like, they're usually not worth the time. I think the only time one of the like Sentinel was worth if you're strong only. Like it was not even worth if you're weak. Like if you didn't have that much damage, it was not even worth doing. But
Sentinel for me had. Sorry, go ahead and finish.
Yeah, like stuff like Sentinel was good as long as you had enough damage. Like what else was actually good in
Delirium?
Oh yeah, of course, Delirium was really good.
So there are certain league mechanics where like you have to be strong to do the league mechanic. You get strong by doing it.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
you can't do the league mechanic without being strong. And so it's like I click on doing a Delirium or I activate the Sentinel. I kill monsters. I get big loot because I have big loot. It's easier to do the league mechanic. But if I don't have any of that, then I'm kind of weak, and doing all these league mechanics is kind of scary and kind of difficult.
Yeah, especially I hated Sentinel early game because of this. Like day one Sentinel was miserable.
Yeah,
it was like, oh my god, day one Sentinel was miserable. You have to do it, but like you're weak. You just got 2 maps. You have no gear, and you try to get you do Sentinel, try to get gear, but then you spawn fucking a pack of 35 shapers, and it's like okay.
Yeah, Sentinel was actually good for speedrunning because you would use it on one monster. You would use it on Dweller, and that was it because it didn't increase the time more than 3 seconds, but it made them drop like 3 times as many rare items, and so the consistency of runs went from like here to like up here because that was it. That was the only mob you would ever use Sentinel on, and then you would basically play standard from there on then on out.
Oh really?
That's really, it was a fun time.
I remember Sentinel was so good for the Gemling Legion in Act 8.
Yeah, but we don't have races that last that long usually. Not anymore.
Fair enough. Right. Should we talk a little bit about the mechanic? Like, Taita, you already said you're not enjoying it. It's not fast enough for you. But do you think it's fairly designed? Did you feel like
it's a good design?
Okay,
just because I don't inherently, and just because I'm ADHD zoomer doesn't mean that it's a bad mechanic by any means. I think that overall it's a good mechanic. And if we saw other mechanics like this one, I think it'd be good. I think there's just as many people there's probably more people that are interested in the lore of PoE than there are people that actually speedrun this game. So I don't think they should cater necessarily to speedrunners when it comes to league mechanics, especially since clearly this league is kind of a banger and most people seem to be enjoying it.
This league could have been like the best league they've released in a long time if there were like any balance changes. That's my biggest problem. It's like after my last rip, I was like, okay, what do I play now? There's like nothing.
The same really skills you've been playing for the last year and a half.
Same meta for the last. Same builds for the last year and a half. I'm like, I want to play something different, but everything they introduced was it sucks balls. So I want to play those.
What do you mean, dude? Volcanic Fissure. Log in, dude.
Oh my god.
Log in, dude.
Oh my god.
What about you, CatMaster?
I'm playing Blade Flurry Poison on a Slayer.
Yeah.
It was pretty awful. Oh, shit, it was terrible, actually. In the beginning, I leveled Poisonous Concoction, and I switched to Blade Flurry Poison like before maps. It was so awful.
Oh no!
It's like my Blade Flurry Poison did less damage on like a 5 link than my Poisonous Concoction did on a 3 link without a weapon.
Yep.
It was so awful.
Farms.
I mean, my hope for Blade Flurry was that Blade Flurry would help you clear, because that's the only problem with the skills. Like you can't clear maps.
It does. It helps you clear really dense things. It doesn't make your map clear faster. But if you're in like an expedition or in a breach with like tons of monsters around you, it like really helps with the clear because you get all those overlaps. They're like pseudo explosions with Valblade Flurry, right? Because you get an overlap from every mob.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like on itself, yeah, it looked like it had good numbers and everything, but mechanically, it's like okay, it's like what 2 charges? Was it 3? Was it 1? No, there's no charges actually. It's only 1. Like 30 souls, no charges.
You can only use once, but it has a relatively short soul gain prevention.
Yeah, but that was the problem. That was my problem with the skills. Like there's no charges, and the soul count was actually kind of high. It was like 30, I think. So it's like it's not like Valcleave. I think Valcleave, for example, had like 2 charges, maybe 3, and it was like 20 or 25 souls. So it's like you can actually clear with this, like every second pack you'll have it. But like Valblade Free, I'm assuming you have it like what? You can't like every pack Valblade Free.
Valcleave was my other unique snowflake candidate for a league start. I was actually strongly considering Valcleave, but then people told me how bad the cleave hitbox is, and I was like,
was there problems with the hitbox?
Yeah, like there's apparently like dead spots where it doesn't hit you. Yep. Like you're swiping in front of you, and like in the center, you're not hitting you.
I knew it. I knew it was gonna do this. Oh, I knew it. I knew it. I was so worried. I was like, oh, this is gonna end up with one of these things where the skills are dead zone, like in actual mid range. Is this what's happening? Is it dead zone?
I don't know whether that's for Valcleave, but I've been told that that's the case for Cleave, and I haven't confirmed that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
My pre-league research has resulted in that's the reason I don't want to start that skill.
Yeah,
I'll probably make one at some point in this league. Just some meme Giga Cleave build with Slayer. Yeah,
I wanted to make one too.
You'd also go Slayer because I was like thinking Slayer for the 20% cull, so I can.
But Valkyrie gives you the AOE. That's the thing. Valkyrie gives you like 60%
more
AOE. Dude,
I mean, you need to get the killing blow.
Okay. You want the Valcleave build? Here's the Valcleave build. You play Valcleave, you pitch fight but thus you equip a Void Forge and you don't get call, so you can get Overwhelm instead, and you can go crit. And then you'll have damage, even on Cleave.
I mean, I was probably gonna go Starforge until I get the Bomba gear.
No, Void Forge. Starforge sucks.
Alright.
It's fine. It's fine. Until Void Forge is fine.
Yeah, I guess.
Because Void Forge is like ridiculous in this patch. It's like you probably put that weapon on like anything, it's gonna do damage. On a Slayer, especially on the Slayer, because Slayer can go crit with that weapon.
I really like the changes that they made to the existing unique items. I think it's a really good change.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to see it every single patch, but I do think that it makes things a bit more exciting. Because it makes it to the point where like Edziri's Disfavor gets buffed so much that you're like, yo, maybe some Slayer Cyclone sounds not bad, dude.
Has anyone seen a Slayer Cyclone build with that yet?
I haven't yet, but
there's no. I don't think it's good anyway.
I just want to see Cyclone with like proper area again. Then I'll play it.
Is 10 range even do that much for Cyclone nowadays? Because it doesn't give you radius anymore. Let me see the gem.
As I know it should.
Yeah, the additional melee range only gives increased AoE on Cyclone, right?
So, it's per melee strike range too. It's not even weapon range. I don't know if weapon range works on Cyclone AoE, does it?
I thought it used to because people would get the little.
Yeah, that was before. Because before you would get radius. Before it was OP, you would get radius per range. And I think it was attack. I don't know what was the wording exactly on old Cyclone, but it was OP. It was like radius per range. I don't know if it was melee strike range or if it was weapon range exactly. I don't remember what the wording was. But like now it says per additional melee strike range. So I don't know how that's gonna work with weapon range. I'm assuming it should work. But yeah. And it's like what? Okay, that's a lot of AoE though. So like 80% increase AoE. Yeah. That's actually a lot of AoE.
Did you guys like the unique changes?
Yeah. I think it's really good.
Didn't matter as much for you, Balor?
Yeah, I mean they're not all insane, right? But that's fine.
For most of them, I loved most of the changes except the fact that they also got super rare at the same time, because none of them got good enough to be a forever weapon or a forever like.
Yeah, that is Voidforge. Voidforge, I think, is the only one.
Yeah, maybe Voidforge, but
it's also
all the rest
rare.
of them. All the rest of them became quite decent. You might wear them at any point during the first week of character progression for me, like before I'm crafting like a proper forever weapon. Mm-hmm. But they all became so giga rare that I'm never going to see them at the appropriate time. And so they're just as useless as they were before, because by the time they become available, we have the ability to make the good forever stuff. And you're like, you did a really good job. Like they're at this spot where they're like 80% of the way to a perfect weapon, right? They're like good, but replaceable. But then they made them so rare that they're never in the slot where they're like, this is really good, I'll wear it.
It's just fewer people that will get them at the sweet spot where it's worth using them, right?
Yeah, but you could have just there was no power creep involved in letting them stay common. It was just lower end. Oh, people can put this on early, but there was no like top end power creep from like letting them
were not
happen.
Even common. They were not even common.
Yeah, they weren't that common to begin with.
Like the boss ones were not common. Like the sphere was even on of normal 0 was already pretty rare. It was rare. Starforge was like insanely rare. Same for Voidforge. Like they were all already really rare. I actually don't even think they made them more rare. I don't expect them to make Voidforge and Starforge and this sphere more rare than they were. It would be actually insanity because they're already like 1 in 50, 1 in I don't know.
They are pretty rare.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree on this. That was actually my take when I first saw the thing. I was like, the sphere is good, but by the time I can get it, I'll get it or find it or whatever. I'll have better or something similar. It won't be worth going for it at that point.
Yeah. And I have a slight issue. This has come up a few times. I have a slight issue with the new uniques that are really, 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 really good. Which is, I really, really, really want them to put in new uniques exactly how they did Ashes and Omni the first league. Like that ring that returns and like all of the disgusting stuff that's that strong, the new flasks, all of that stuff. I want all of them, the league they get put in, to just consistently be super common. Like if that explode flask was like 1 divine now because it was so common, that's exactly where it should be. The league it's put in. I really think we should make a habit. I really think they should make a habit of putting in those things super common. Everybody gets them, and then dialing the rarity back to where you think is appropriate, even if it's going to be suddenly a 50 divine flask. The next league, let everyone play with the new toy once.
The problem's like they'll play with the new toy, then they'll be taken away.
They want it. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Taking these toys.
That's good. I got hundreds of people who played with Ashes and Omni, fucking loved it, and then came to me right at the beginning of next league and was like, Omni is 40 divines. How do I make 40 divines? I've never had to do this before. And then learned, got better, earned it, and got one again.
So because they've played with it, they're like,
because they played with it, they were like, I need that power back. I've never cared before. I've only ever built like 2 or 3 Exalt characters before. But now I've played with that and I want that power again. I have to learn. And they did, and then they did, and they got better, and they made all of the exalts, and they went and got the thing.
I wasn't sure last time. Please go ahead first. I have it in my mind.
I'll go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's either that or they complain on Reddit or whatever. So
no, I was gonna say that I was not sure whether I was against or in favor of this, and I was tending more towards against it last podcast. But like it's kind of comparable to how it went in Piranda's League, if you guys remember, if you were around for it. In Piranda's League, like super rare chase uniques all of a sudden became super available to the average Joe player via Kadiro, right? You could get your shavs, you could get your thing, and everyone got like a little bit of a taste of power, what it feels like to play a good build with a good synergistic build enabling item and everything coming together, because it was so much more available. And so even then when they made the rarity, they ranked the rarity up again afterwards. It was overall beneficial for the game because people had like a taste for the power. And so I guess I don't exactly disagree, but like last time, we really have to highlight that it needs to be properly communicated that these changes are made, and that's the design going forward if they do that, right? Like these are the new uniques. These are super powerful. They're going to be available at a much higher rate than they will be in the core game once we've made them really go core. But for this league, you get to play around with them. And then there's also the upside of that if those uniques are more common and more people are making builds around them, then we'll see the outlier cases more frequently. They get a more efficient limit testing by the community, so they get a better idea of where they need to balance so that the uniques are in a good place.
And I also think you will not get the backlash you got when Omni and Ashes happened, like when they became super rare.
True.
If you upfront say, we're going to do this more regularly from now on, these new uniques that are super powerful will only be super common this league. And we know that right from the start, instead of being surprised by it, you will not get that backlash, right? Like it'll be fine.
Because I was against what they did to my boy Omni and Ashes, because I really liked Ashes. Ashes was like, I do my quest version and I get some sick amulet that I'm going to use, not forever, but for a very long time because it's really good. And I was always excited to do that in any sort of like long speedrun that I'd ever do. And then the league after is just so rare that I actually have not seen the item once. And it upsets me because I remember what it used to be like. I'd play in BPL or something and I just, I'd get an Ashes, or, I'd do like a level 95 run or a level 90 run. I get an Ashes and it was like, sick amulet, glad to use it. Never seen it again. If I knew going into the future that was going to be the case for that league, that'd be fine. I don't want these new unique items to be so common that they're 4C a piece and everybody's running around with their explodey flasks and their little NTR ring. But I think that, if they're fairly common, 1 in 20 drop rate or something, and then they're made like 1 in 40 or 1 in 50 instead, that's fine to me.
Yeah, like Ashes was insane. Ashes and Omni, I think in BPLs, like we were barely able to get it in time for the
Omni. I got it so late. I got it so late that teams were already finished with every boss before we even dropped one with multiple people farming for it.
It was actually like
it was the only build my team could do. Yeah.
Yeah, because I wanted an Ashes on my character. I was like, oh, surely we'll get 2, right? Surely we'll get a second one. So and no, we got 1, like, I don't know, like 3 days in or something. I was like,
yeah,
okay,
exactly.
forget it.
Yeah, as long as it's communicated up front, that's fine. But the overall feeling of like, hey, kiddos, this amazing amount of power that you are used to having is now taken away is kind of on the fun, not allowed bus,
I don't think it would be that upsetting though if you knew before the item.
If I knew beforehand,
if
I knew beforehand, it'd be different.
Yeah, if they specifically say we're making these more common than they should be, but only this league, then they would. People wouldn't feel that you're taking away something. You'd just be giving them something extra for a limited amount of time.
There also could just be a case where they release Ashes, they release Omni, they release 7 other unique items, and then they say like or like they don't know how build enabling like people are going to use some of these uniques, right? Like I'm sure there's tons of uniques they've released and they've been like, oh, people are going to really abuse this, and then people don't really pick up on it for either multiple leagues or they just don't use it at all because it's not as good as GGG initially thought that they were going to be. So I feel like it's really easy to look at an item like Omniscience and be like, okay, people will use that really well. But an item like Ashes, I looked at and I was like, well, it's a good mid-game amulet for later on. And it turns out that it's actually a really sick amulet for a lot of end-game builds. So it could just be that they released the item without knowing that it would be insane. And then, just made it rare as they realized how common it was and how well adjusted it was.
Yeah.
What's up, Bella?
I'm good.
Oh, okay. You look like we're gonna disagree.
Balor is doing trades on the side again.
I might be doing path of building on the side.
I see. Fair. You look quizzical. I see. Fair enough.
Yeah. Now I lost my point.
That's all right.
No.
Uniques. More rare, less rare. Take away.
Ashes. Yeah, exactly. I was gonna ask how much do you think is there like a a difference between how GGG sees things and how we see things? Do you think? I mean, we theorized about that like a lot of times, like with the player base and everything. Is there still like secret builds out there that GGG like is balancing certain uniques around that we don't have any idea that are super strong interactions? Do you think like there's any like crazy builds played at the office that no player outside of the office has ever conceived?
Like, look at this poison build I'm playing right now. This isn't new. When we like, okay, no one knew about it, but if you go digging now that you know to go digging, there was a video on it that had like 500 views.
Poison SOS.
from early last league, and then you look on PoE Ninja, and you can find like 6 to 8 people playing this build every league for like the past 3 or 4 leagues.
That's a
poison SRS build.
Yeah, like it's been around. It's just not been popular.
The guy from South Africa, the Beta Gaming, who we had on last league with Leidy on the podcast, he was playing Poison SOS last league, all league.
Was he? Yeah. Why wasn't it so popular? This is the strongest build I've ever played. And it looks like it has been for a while.
To me, it just seemed like a meme build. I mean, it looked good, but I was like, okay, you just like put a lot of investment into it, made it look good like that. But I was like, how is it going to be efficient? Because it's like fire, right? Like SOS converts half its physical to fire. Like, how is it going to be a good poison build? I was like, how? I don't get it. But apparently, you can stack up enough flat fizz and flat chaos that it's worth it.
I mean, I've seen people playing it over the last few days, right? Because my friends are big, like, haha, SRS is like the funny meme skill. And I've looked at it, and I've been like, it doesn't, I mean, it's not that it looks like the meme skill, but it just looks like a good SRS build. It doesn't look like some S tier build that I've ever played before.
You're not playing the Sanctum, and you're not curious about the Sanctum. It seems to destroy the Sanctum.
On 2 divines, it does 9 million DPS.
Those numbers don't mean anything to me. I need a like concrete, like, here's the map clear. And any map clear I've ever seen has been like, yeah, it looks like a good AoE SRS build.
I mean, you've played Bone Shatter, you can't play SRS in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. I've played Bone Shatter, attacked once, blown up half the screen, leap slammed, blown up half the screen, and moved away.
But you played a Bone Shatter cultist, you know?
It's like, yeah, exactly. Be a cultist on two divines, or I play like, you know, some sort of ignite build on 2 divines. Like, I'm chilling.
Balor, how fast do you kill
it's not that it looks like a bad build.
How fast do we kill what?
Eater or tier 16 Guardians or something like that?
Oh, like a third of a second?
Third of a second.
Yeah, that does sound kind of pretty good. We're talking about normal, right? Not Uber.
The Ubers take a few seconds, like 3 or 4.
Okay. Oh. I mean, you know, it's 3.20 poison. 3.20 poison. You can put like probably any skill. You as long as your damage is poison type of damage that you can temp chain, then you're good to go.
Log in.
Yeah, poison seismic trap. Log in, dude. Poison anything, man. It's to cast temp chain. GG. Life is good.
It's not just the damage that's the reason that it's that strong though, because it's that strong. My version's currently doing like 61 million DPS or something, which is a ridiculous number. This stupidly over the top. But at the same time, I have like 5.4k life, block cap, full spell block cap, suppression cap, 40% mind over matter to my infinite energy shield, extra max res, and 22,000 armor.
Getting some defensive layers in the current state of the game feels really good.
Like, I'm immortal.
Especially on soft core. Yeah.
I'm like 17% through level 99, and I've been farming 80% delirious maps. It's just happening. I'm just leveling because I can't die.
That might be the build, dude. That might be the tech.
That might be the build that I should have rolled and can't afford anymore.
Probably. Do they need certain uniques?
To get to that level, at least Covenant and United in Dream and Aegis Aurora if you want to do the mom tech.
Okay.
I guess I already got.
I heard that.
Yeah, the issue.
What did you hear?
But I heard that build does damage even without any gear.
Oh yeah, no, I put together a 2 divine version that didn't even have the Covenant on. just to like see how cheap you could get it. Made a video on it, put like trade links and everything in it, and we put it together for 2 divines at level 90 and had 9 million DPS, block cap and spell block cap, no suppression, and a surrender shield on, so we still had some life on block.
Is it actually like reliable damage on Ubers? Yeah. Like, do they not die before they explode?
No, they don't die.
No,
the boss just dies. This is like 80% feared, but I don't have to dodge anything. I just stand there.
Yeah. All right, I'm sold. What were we talking about earlier? Like, we were talking about secret builds that nobody knows about, but maybe Graniger Game knows about.
This build existed. That's the point. That's where this came from. This build existed and has existed for several leagues. I didn't come up with it. I didn't invent the build. People have already known about this. It's just that it hasn't been like super prevalent and been like suddenly meta, right? Like, and I don't know why. But it was just a little hidden gem, and I am positive that there's a bunch of other little hidden gems around where there's like 4 people have been playing this build for a year and it's disgusting, but they just don't tell anyone.
So I completely agree with you. I do think there's probably tons of builds that are like these little niche things that maybe they have some sort of weird interaction that people haven't picked up on. Maybe they're, not prevalent on like any sort of stream, any sort of like podcast. Nobody's really talking about it. Not really 2 people play it on PvE Ninja or something like that. But the question of, does Graniger Games have a full list? I can't imagine that there's a big list of builds that Graniger Games is like, the players still don't know about build X. Should we release a teaser for build 17 on the list? No, we can't do that. They might break the game. Like, I don't think that's going on.
That sounds too conspiracy theory. Like, I didn't mean like they keep track of all the builds, the secret builds that they have at GGG, and
I don't think they really have that many. I think but you release something to thousands and thousands of people are going to find cool.
No, I think like a lot of GGG employees play the game on their own time as well, and they just may have insight into interactions that they utilize that maybe some players haven't utilized. But obviously, they don't keep like a whole list of that sort of stuff. Just interesting because sometimes they make these balancing decisions where we're like, we don't really understand them, and then you wonder whether they see a different context to those changes than we do.
Well, they definitely do, or I think they just don't know. They just, I could go on. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go on that subject, but
Well, I mean, that's something I wanted to bring up. Is it like is that the meaty strike thing that you want to talk about that we talked about at the beginning of the league?
Like this patch is like, oh my god! Like think about this. Imagine if in 3.19 we told you that in 3.20. Seismic Trap, Poison Seismic Trap would get buffed, and Melee would get nerfed. Think about this for a second. I told you this last patch. What would you have said? What if I came and said, hey, Catmaster, next patch, Melee is nerfed, and Seismic is buffed?
I would say, no way, dude, no way.
You will call the cops, dude. You asylum, everybody would like, yo, this guy's fucking crazy, put it in the hospital.
I just said, that makes sense.
I would have been like, that sounds like something Graniger Games would do.
Absolutely.
Out of any company I've ever seen.
Oh my god.
But yeah. No, you're totally right on that. I think sometimes they just drop the ball on certain things, and they have done pretty good things. Like Helix is insanely prevalent in past leagues, and the fact that gets tuned down, I think is fine. I think it's good. Certain skills are definitely pretty dominant. It's okay to bring them down. It's okay to bring other things up. What I want to see are like skill changes that are so prevalent, they're so huge that people are widely excited for them again. Just some random crazy like might break the game with this, but we're gonna increase the power level of these completely garbage skills to be a little insane. It kind of goes against the philosophy that I have of like it's really hard to take things away from players though, because what you'll do is the minion thing where they'll make Necromancer and they'll make minions really insane, and everybody and their mom is playing minions, even the people who have been playing minions for years. Everybody's playing minions, and then they nerf the minion archetype again and again and again, and then you're left with again the only people who like playing minions in all 5 of them. So that feels bad for those people because they know what it's like to have power.
I mean, in Harvest, they said, like, remember when Harvest got released, they said we might break the game. They warned you, like, we might break the game. This might not stay. They could just do that.
It should have not stayed. It should not stayed.
I mean, they said we might break the game, might remove it. They removed it. Nobody cared. It was like, okay, we had fun with Harvest. Harvest is gone. No problem. It's like they could have done that.
It would have turned into, when people complain about, like, remember when the league was so good, like Ritual League? You'd be like, do you remember Ultimatum? Oh man! And then people would bring up like, hey, don't you remember all the problems those things had? That would have been Harvest, but people would have been like, so you're saying you want the Excel spreadsheet for figuring out exactly where to place your garden, because they didn't have the solution in Harvest League to make it like it currently is. Like you go into the encounter, it would have been, hey, remember how good Harvest was? I could craft all my gear, and be like, actually, no, we don't want Harvest because there were all these issues with the league, and it's fine that it's as a legacy league.
But then Ritual happened.
GG. But then Ritual happened, and then GG noobs, and it was made cool, and the game was nerfed.
But like, it's like. One thing that like pissed me off the most is like, do you guys remember what happened to slams in after Ultimatum? It was Expedition, wasn't it? Expedition, where everything died, everything got nerfed, slams got dumpstered. Like, there's a reasoning for not nerfing Seismic. This league was that it was not, people did not pay that much. It was like low representation. That it was only a problem in racing, for racing. And that is exactly the same scenario that slams were in like during the three leagues where it was good. It was literally only played in races. Nobody played in SC Trade. It was like 2%. I remember vividly checking because I was like, we had this discussion. I was like, nah, they're not gonna nerf slams. Nobody play it. Nobody plays it. You check SC Trade, it's like 2%. 2% people playing slams.
I think it was 2%. Like Earth Shadow, right? Earth Shadow was like super low representation or super.
Yeah, it was like no, you just sorted by Seismic Cry. And it would be like 2%.
Oh,
that was not even just Earthshot. That was like all slams were 2%, all of them. And I was like, nah, surely they're not gonna nerf it. And this is exactly the same spot Seismic was in like last league. It was like not played much. It was a prime races, but it was like Also, I'm pretty sure that wasn't it even last league? It was one of the most played builds like week 1 or something. In all
early
leagues.
On, yeah.
I mean,
but I mean that happens every league.
Drops off.
Like, also then is insanely popular and then it drops off. Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's what that was like. What is this double standard? Why it's fine for Seismic Trap to stay the way it is for a year, over a year, and Slam just died like instantly, man. 2 leagues, like no.
It wasn't instant, dude. We were playing slams for a while.
It was 3 leagues. It was 3 leagues.
Yes,
okay,
3 leagues.
But what if they just learned from their mistakes? Maybe they were just like, hey, we shouldn't have nerfed slams back then.
No. Keep making the same mistakes. Kill Seismic. Kill Seismic again. Seismic Cry dies. Seismic Trap dies too. Just keep killing Seismic. Yeah. Don't let it live. No Seismic allowed.
There's a point, I guess, Catmaster, where it's like, oh, we killed an entire archetype after it was only viable for so long because it had a small play rate. Like maybe we won't do that again. Like maybe that's what they're going for. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I think the biggest issue is just people are disappointed that we're pretty much playing the same skills that we have been for the last year plus for the most part. Yeah. There are cool unique items. There are cool game changes, but balance changes.
No, like you said, like
really scared.
I just want unpopular skills to come back, or like things that were good in the past that are like have since been outclassed by other things. And I was really hyped to see Frostblades go up from 175% to 225%. It's almost 30% more. But then at the same time, it lost both Fight for Survival jewels, so it lost like 30% melee Ellie penetration. So yeah, I mean, sure, it gets the curse effectiveness against pinnacle bosses, right? You don't have the curse effect reduction, but every build gains that. So like, that's not really something specific to Frostblades. So
also, Frostblades is not a build that goes to Whispers of Doom, so you actually lose compared to most builds that benefit from the new curses, because you can't really go to Whispers of Doom on a build like this.
Actually, I mean, unless you play Occultist Frostblades or something like that.
Oh my god, look what is this?
Would you guys play if next league they said, hey, pretty small league mechanic, no real endgame changes, but we have like 1 million changes to skill gems. Like it's just skill gems. Like,
absolutely.
Instant dock drive. I don't need the good league mechanics. I just need the good.
Like, hey, we haven't actually worked on like very much for the next league. All we've done is like a bunch of like rebalance changes and you guys are going to be playing vastly different skills. And that's
I'm
it.
logging in instantly.
Yep.
I'm
And
logging
then they get more resources to work on, like, you know, PoE2. They get more time to work on, you know, the actual,
I'm here
like
14 hours a day. Let's go.
14 hours a day.
instantly.
Log in.
Yeah,
I think it'd be worth.
You know what?
I think it'd be worth a try. They did a league where they did 0 balance changes, and I anticipated huge balance changes after that.
Yes,
And then they changed like 2 things, dude. They changed like 5 skill gems.
Yeah, that's true. That was also the copium I was on with the no balance change. It's like, well, I mean, okay, we can try it for a league, and then they're just saving up the balance change. They're going to do like a huge overhaul next league. Then. They're just saving it up because they want to hit it right. Like,
really,
you know, we were all sucking it up. Like, okay, no changes. It's fine. Next league. There's gonna be fucking crazy changes.
It's gonna be so crazy.
It's gonna be PoE fucking. It's gonna be PoE 4 before PoE 2, and no, nothing happened.
Yeah.
And the next patch, same thing. I'm out of copium, man. Like next league, I don't expect anything again.
But you are, after all,
anymore. For like the last few years, it's been really hard to expect anything, because when I start expecting stuff, I get the, what if the mechanic? Anytime I've ever done that, I've been disappointed and let down because my imagination runs wild. So I just, you know, I'm gonna take it at face value. The mechanics that's coming out, they're gonna be cool. They're gonna be fun. We're gonna log in, and hopefully they're really good.
Ooh, but what if they're gonna make the fracturing orb so common that you can realistically farm it out in SSF and make your own fractured bases for item crafting?
Okay, fracturing orbs are fine.
They're fine? Okay,
they're fine. It took me, okay. Because I remember people like me like, oh my god, I'm almost level 100 and I have only 6 charges, whatever. I was like, okay, listen, there's no way. I logged in. I was like, all right, guys, today I'm getting the fracturing orb. It took me like a few hours. I think it took me like 6 hours or 5 minutes to get one. And that was like device scarabs and just, you know, getting Harby fast. That's it. And it took me a few hours. Then I'm pretty sure if I wanted to, I would log in and do it again.
I mean, that was like me with the trial master back in Ultimatum, where I have 12 people telling me that they haven't encountered the Ultimatum boss. And I'm like, that's funny because I encountered him twice today, encountered him 2 days ago, I encountered him the day before that, and then, you know, I log in the next day and I encounter him 3 times in one day, and it's like,
I had the same experience.
Am I just luckiest guy alive, or have I done 16,000 maps in 2 weeks? I don't know.
Yeah, it's probably the second one, dude. Because I was the same situation. I had a lot of trial masters. You know, just kill monster fast and you get shit.
Yeah, that was a good league though.
Yeah.
I had 3 and I got killed all 3 times.
I got
lost 2 hardcore characters and I died in BPL to it.
Oh my god!
I had like some sort of trade league like shenanigans, and so I was doing like a mega boss killer single target build. So Trial Master was pretty fun.
So basically, Trial Master full cleared cast master.
Basically, yeah. But I'm also really bad at going into stuff like that blind, and there was no real way to practice it. And then you can't switch characters. We talked about this a lot, but like there was so many bad things about Trial. I mean, I really look back at Ultimatum League as like, oh, that was a cool league, and we've been talking about this like almost every episode since then. We really want that freeze back. I don't see any reason why in solo play we can't have that freeze in maps when we interact with masters or other mechanics. There's just nothing around your hands.
Yeah,
true.
Because it's so annoying when you get off screen by something that you didn't realize was even there. Just because you got baited by like an NPC. But yeah, no, like it was so horrible that when you got that boss, you had like one portal, you directly could get into it, but you couldn't like switch to another character if you had like a separate bossing character and a separate mapping character. No way, you couldn't.
You do that with the current league?
No.
Yeah, sadly, it's one Sanctum per character, right? Well, can't share them.
You guys like that, by the way? Like, oh, this is my Sanctum. Like, I can't trade this with anybody else. Like, I have to run it where it's going.
I like it. I mean, okay. I mean,
as a player says, yeah, I don't mind not being able to trade it.
I mean, I can see why trade they're not happy about it because I'm pretty sure. The problem with this in trade is that you have to do it because it's character power. Like you have to do it, and if you don't want to do it, then you still have to do it.
You're just weaker. Yeah.
I'm like the most degenerate trader in existence, right? Like, like I'm the guy like continually opting for just turning everything off on your filter and only doing the thing that you want to do, and just selling every single extra piece of content because it's just profit, right? Like that's just me. That's who I am, and I love it. I love it because if it was tradable, I wouldn't have even made a character specifically so that I could get through it easily, right? Like I made the SRS build only exists because I wanted free Sanctum runs, right? And so we sat down and looked everywhere for what can get through for free, what can get through guaranteed Sanctums every single time, and then this came out of it, and then it's like it doesn't even have to be profitable because. It doesn't matter if it's profitable because it's character power. It's like asking people like, oh, how profitable is the Sanctum? And I'm like, I don't know. How profitable is getting from level 70 to level 80? Like,
or like how profitable is doing your lab?
Yeah, like it's not a profit thing. That's character progression. You need it. It's not about profit. And then it happens to still be profitable as well, which is great. But like, if it was just all tradable like every other league, chances are it wouldn't have added anything to my gameplay at all, right? Like, unless it was the best thing to do, I would have just gone and done the best thing to do and bought whatever thing I wanted. I love that I can't buy it.
I don't think most people think like that in trade, though. I think they're like, I just want to buy it.
Maybe.
But I don't know.
I don't feel any particular way. I was just throwing the question out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because with most past league mechanics, you always had the option whether you want to run it yourself or whether you sell it. And selling it is usually like a consistent income, and running it yourself is potentially higher. But if you don't have a good build or you don't have good knowledge of the mechanic, you end up like scamming yourself out of a lot of money potentially, and that choice is now taken away from you basically. So it's interesting to see how that affects people. And
I feel like it's good. Like, isn't it the only time they did something like this, where you have to, you cannot trade? Isn't it the only time? Well, there was Harvest, I guess, at some point.
A lot of league mechanics you couldn't trade during the league. Things like
league,
like you couldn't sell your Alpha Temple, until more recently.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
And Synthesis League, you had to build the thing and run it. You couldn't sell those.
No, but you could still sell the rooms. You would still sell the rooms for Alva. It was just harder. It was the same as Harvest. You would still sell Harvest and stuff, but it was just more difficult because it was not.
Yeah, would sell it via TFT
in the game. Yeah, you had to sell it like somewhere else. Like, do it on global chat or something or whatever. Or on
I think
TFT.
part of the reason this one feels so good is because it's not just like soulbound locked to you; it's account bound. So it's meta progression. Like it's not just progression for the character I'm playing right now. I can quite easily find power and good things for later characters in the league, right? It's not just like I actually haven't even found a relic for my Summon Raging Spirits guy, but I am finding relics that excite me that have nothing to do with the build I'm playing. Because I'm like, ooh, I could use that in another build.
Yep.
I think that's part of the reason it feels good instead of shit, is because it's not character progression, it's like meta progression over the whole league. The only downside is it does make the idea of like playing for 2 months in trade and then re-rolling in solo self-found or something for a solo self-found run less appealing, because I've gathered a bunch of relics that I could do cool stuff with in trade and I'd have to start again. So that's a little worse, but
well, I mean, that's the same as with regular items.
Yeah, it's about the same. It's the same when you get like build enabling items in. Well, I guess if you start trade, you always have them, so it's different. Yeah.
True. Yeah. It only applies to a solo cell phone restart. If you actually restart like 1 month in hardcore trade or something like that, then you could buy all this stuff. But you can't buy these. So. Yeah. No, I think it's cool for an experiment, and I wouldn't mind seeing more like it, but I don't know. It really depends on how other people see it. I don't have any strong opinion on that either way, because I do kind of enjoy it in trade, but a lot of times I play SSF and there it doesn't matter at all. I guess I like about it that it sort of gives people a taste of SSF, right? Like I've liked it in the past when leagues gave people a taste of hardcore, where Heist, for example, you wouldn't have like an actual permadeath. But yeah, Sanctum also does that.
Actually, that's one thing that I love about Sanctum. I love that you actually can't die. Well, you can die on the last boss, but that's it.
Like, you can't die before that?
Impossible. No, you actually, my character isn't taking damage in Sanctum outside of. I actually don't think. I don't think my character is taking damage in any Sanctums like at all.
You can die.
Yeah, the only thing that can kill you is the maze, Alicia. That's it. I don't see what else can kill you. I haven't taken damage. Like the only time I took damage was I got hit by the maze once, and I lost 15% of my life. That was it. That was actually it. I don't think I've taken damage like once. I think hardcore characters, I don't think you can die outside of the last boss.
So it kind of brings a little bit of softcore into hardcore.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not exactly, but you know. Yeah, I actually haven't taken damage from any ability. Like in Sanctum outside of last boss. So that one's nice because you can just go into the league, do the league mechanic, and not have to worry about dying because you know, like if there's 1% chance you can die in the Sanctum, then you know you will die. It's a matter of time.
But yeah, like, what was it that Zizran died to?
It was a bug.
It was a bug. Oh, okay.
That's why. It was like I think the master was doing HP damage instead of resolve damage, something like this.
Okay. I thought it was like a legit thing.
And he got shotgun too. So, yep. But like I legit have not taken damage of his single ability in Sanctums. Like on a hard, I think a character with hardcore defenses will not die to anything besides the maze. Well, I guess maybe her Sam. I don't know if her Sam hurts, but I mean, if you get hit by that, like, you know, maybe plug in your keyboard and mouse.
We've seen a lot of leagues that kind of replaced previous leagues. I mean, a Scourge has been beyond 2.0, sort of. We all figured that Sentinel may, in some shape or form, be replacing Tormented Spirits. I don't know what else there was recently. I mean, Arch Nemesis replaced the rares that we had before. Do you think that there's anything that the Forbidden Sanctum could be replacing? I think we talked about that last league already, last podcast.
The only thing I can think about is Rogue Exiles. Put Guard instead.
I mean, because I think.
Oh yeah, Lab actually, Lab. Yeah.
Yeah, Grimbo was suggesting.
I would. That would be sick. I would be excited to do Lab if that was Sanctum.
Right.
Instead. The only thing is like you can actually. It's very easy to fail Sanctum compared to Lab.
Yeah.
Like Lab is annoying, but like you're not gonna fail it. You know, like you gotta try hard to fail it. You gotta int pretty hard. Like you can fail a Sanctum without inting super hard, especially early on.
So you only make Uber Lab that hard, right? Like you do the lower ones become way easier.
Yeah, maybe for a normal lab you only have to do one floor.
Floor one,
lab 2 floors.
One is normal lab.
Merciless lab 3 floors.
Yeah, normal one is floor 1, and you don't even have resolve. Right? Like it's just you don't die. You just can't fail it. Right? Unless you die.
Are you talking about
replacing lab with Sanctum?
Doc Rive.
Yeah. And then like Cruel Lab, you can take like half resolve damage and you gotta do 2 floors. And then you just like keep going. Right? And it gets by the time you get to Uber Lab, it's like this one. It'd be great. It would definitely slow down Mr. Speedrunner over here, because it takes a lot longer to do Sanctum than it does to do Lab. But
yeah,
everybody gets slowed down at the same time. So does that really matter to you? Because you're speedrunning against other people, right? So as long as you're doing it quicker than everyone else is, it doesn't matter, right?
The current state of the game is a lot. The current state of the game is a lot slower than it used to be, 10 leagues ago.
Yeah.
And everybody's slower at this current state of the game, but it still feels worse knowing, what the game used to feel like.
Tata's gonna see timer go up. He's not gonna like it, man.
Yeah, exactly.
This took me an extra 15 minutes because of Sanctum shit change.
Yeah, an extra 15 seconds. What the hell, GGG? I lost 30 seconds here because I got a bad Sanctum. I don't know. It'd be okay. So you remember the new player that full cleared every single zone, and it started to do content when it's appropriate to do content. She hates lab, and I remember it because it triggered some old repressed memories of doing lab as a brand new player, and I'm like, oh, I remember that feeling of ooh, I don't want to go do my Merc lab. And then I go and do my Merc lab and I die on the last room because I'm a noob and I got owned, And it's ooh, that feeling of playing hardcore, even though I'm playing softcore, that feels really bad. So if they did away with lab, I wouldn't be the angriest boy in the world. I think it'd be okay. I don't think they need to look for a replacement.
No, but the thing is, they could just make lab Sanctum, but you get the rewards from Sanctum. You get the same rewards, but it's also your lab. It's basically your ascension is an additional reward to the Sanctum. That's how I would
get the relic.
Yeah, and you still get all the good stuff from Sanctum. So it'd be like the league mechanic would be the lab basically. They replace lab with Sanctum. You do Sanctums, and you can ascend. You get the enchants, and you get the Sanctum rewards, maybe something like this. So that the time you spend there is actually worth it.
You can still keep offerings. You can still keep them and be
basically offerings would be your Sanctum entry. Instead of just getting it in maps, you just get an offering and you get a Sanctum for it.
Can we talk about for a second how the intern turned off lab trials, by the way, and how it was impossible to get offerings this league?
Dude, I was level 84. I had no Uber lab. I was like, what is going on here? I'm gonna go see my.
I was level 91 with no Uber lab running around where is my trial? I am in T16 maps.
Not done any rituals?
I got it from ritual.
No blights?
Yeah, same. It's like I was
got it from Kirac.
Yeah, it was the same. That's the only way. I was in tier 14. I was like, all right, where's my Where's my
I know I'm fucking trade Andy over here, but I haven't done a lab trial in 4 or 5 leagues. And I am always solo self-founding my offerings on day 1. How are you guys not?
No, but this patch only, it's a bug.
Right. But I don't run the trials anyway. They come from Legion and they come from Ritual and they come from everywhere.
We don't do these. We play standard but with no mechanics at all.
Yeah.
We just kill monsters. We just kill monsters in the map and that's it.
Right.
You're trying to figure out why you're level 70 when we're level 90. It's because I'm not stopping for a Legion. Yeah.
Yeah,
well, that's why I could ascend on day 1 when you couldn't. Is because I'm doing
true.
this.
Well, yes. If we were doing ritual, we would have ascended.
Your gear's also most likely going to be better even at the same time point. Not even when you're at the same level. At the same time point, your gear's most likely going to be better. Because CARN and I are still conditioned like Pavlov's dogs to get gear from. You slap it on the harvest table. You grab life suppression, tri-res, or
you're
dual
going
res.
Really far right now. Because I just throw wisdom my gear.
Because we don't do it anymore, and now we just throw wisdoms, and we're
we just throw wisdoms.
The gear I got from X7 is better than I have at level 90. Yeah,
you can't possibly pick up an ID fewer items than Balor.
I'm better geared and ascended than Tytykiller. Fucking 6 hours into a league, but I'm just getting. I'm in tier 2 maps, and he's already fighting Eater of Worlds with just worse gear on that I've got.
I think I did my last run at 645 or 646 or something. I think I had the 2 stones. Not on league start. This is
I'm
practice
in tier 2 maps when you're getting those.
657. That's what it was.
Oh shit, sub 7.
And you're probably right. I'm probably in better gear, but I'm just so far behind. It doesn't matter. To 15 levels down and in tier 2 maps.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's any problem with people playing the way they want to play. I think if people want to do the new league mechanic every single zone they encounter and they spend a lot longer in every zone, I think that's perfectly fine. In fact, I think people should be encouraged to do so.
I kind of want to, maybe one of these leagues I'm going to go back to doing this. Playing standard for I don't know how many leagues straight at league starts is like,
Yeah. Maybe there will be a league where I'm not like, I have to do what's most efficient. Or else,
I tend to do like a little bit of a hybrid. Like I mess around with the new league mechanic the day of league start in Act 1. Because for most of Act 1, you're like super limited on what can drop, and all of those really beneficial uniques can drop. And they're like in the pool that's very little. And so I usually mess around with the league mechanic in Act 1. And then skip it until I get to maps.
Dude, heist offer, not heist, Sanctum offer, get 5 transmutations now or 10 alterations on completing the floor. Dude, transmutes, let me craft those resist summer items. Easy.
Yeah. You do one room and then like, all right, thanks, peace, I'm going to maps now.
Yeah. I mean, I used to do that with league mechanics and just be like, oh, can I use this one? And I think the last like 12 mechanics have all been like, no. Because they stop your character, right? Like they physically like think about Scourge League. It would literally take you back to where you were originally.
Oh my
that's
god.
That's not a speedrunning mechanic.
Dude, I remember trying. I remember wanting to try a Temporal Rift for that. That thing didn't work. It was sad.
It didn't work.
Wouldn't the trick be to enter the Scourge realm, killed Scourge mobs on the way to a zone portal, and then just zone through without reversing?
Like, could you zone out?
Grab waypoint, grab waypoint while Scourge, TP out once you TP back, and then go from waypoint to waypoint. You'd still be entering 2 load screens.
Yeah. But what about just like, couldn't you have just like let's say you're in just Crossroads or whatever, headed to the dude on the right hand side who doesn't give you a frenzy charge anymore. You know the one. Creighton. That's his name. Well, couldn't you just like, you hit the waypoint, you activate Scourge, you run through killing stuff, and then you just take the zone exit?
And just never you'd still just be faster just going to the zone, like just straight there. There are these ways of like getting.
How about in Docks? You hit the waypoint and then you activate Scourge and you run to the Sulfite and then you deactivate Scourge and warp back to the waypoint.
We're talking about a legacy mechanic here, so.
Yeah.
I mean, you could also do that with Temporal Rift.
Oh, yeah, you could do that to farm XP though. In Docks, you just waypoint, Scourge, kill stuff, get rewind, and you reset zone.
Yeah,
but I mean, that's
it's never coming back the way it was. It's baked into Beyond.
Scourge was a good mechanic. Scourge was good. It was a good league mechanic. I really liked it.
I wasn't a huge fan, but again, I don't think they need to be made specifically around like, Delirium. You open it, spawn 20,000 mobs on your way to the next zone. Like, it doesn't have to be like that every single time.
Not every league, but it's nice to get leagues like that where
all right.
You just get a little bit of extra loot, little bit of extra monsters in your map, and that's it. And I was actually expecting this league to be one like that, but then they decided to come out with something super experimental, and it worked. I'm happy. I like the league.
Oh, did you end up being like extremely overleveled at league start this league?
Oh yeah, I was so overleveled. Even in my speedruns, I found myself being.
I don't know if you noticed, but you know the monster that were supposed to give you gem XP, they were giving character XP at league start. I noticed because I noticed because I was in Act 4. I killed 1 rare. I leveled up and I checked my XP bar. It's 60% full, and I was like, "What the fuck just happened?" And then I was like. And my gems just all went crazy too, so I was like, okay.
Gems were insane.
At first,
that happened to me as well. I think you're right.
Yeah.
I didn't consciously make that connection, but
because at first I thought I was like, okay, I guess there's a new reward type for rares that gives you like insane XP. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
I thought it was that, but apparently it was just gems. I was so disappointed when they changed it and it was only gems. I was like, oh come on, because I got super excited as soon as that happened. As soon as that happened, I was killing every single rare. I was like, give me that XP, dude.
They still give crazy XP.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know, but they're actually pretty worth doing in speedrunning now.
They still give character XP?
They still give big Bomba XP, especially compared to like what they used to give before.
Okay.
Like it's comparable to like stopping for a magic pack.
Okay.
Pretty good.
Yeah, because
I also... How do you guys feel about the change to? I blocked out the name of it because I wanted to forget it. Arcnem. the changes to Arcanum.
Nemesis 2?
Yeah, Nemesis 2.0.
Huge fan. Love it.
I mean, it can be worse. I mean, the thing is, like, my build didn't care about Arcanum Assist to begin with, so for me, it didn't change anything. It changed one thing where I don't know if I'm the only one, but I know other people report the same thing. But the rares like extremely tanky.
Yeah,
they're like insanely tanky. Day one, day 2, they were insanely tanky. Like more than normal Arcanum Assist, I think.
I encountered nothing that was as tanky as like an Arcanum was.
I mean, I guess because you played what did you play?
Wasn't Corruption Occultist? Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes,
I had big problems with the rares in Lava Lake Kitava. Lava Lake now tier 1 map. When I went in there, it's like, wow.
Oh yeah.
The rares were so tanky.
Like the Kitava's Torments, those mobs?
Kitava
Heralds, yeah.
Heralds, yeah. Personally, the system for me is an 8 out of 10, and the only way it could be a 10 out of 10 is if they remove resists. I don't like feeling like I'm playing Diablo 2. Like I have to build like pen, because a lot of the time it's okay if there's pen in like a level 68 zone or something, because I can have passives, I could have an ascendancy. When I roll up to Mudflats with my rolling magma and something's fire and ignite immune, I'm like, cool. When do I get the pen? Because right now I just have to skip this because there's no other option.
Yeah.
It's like actually unkillable.
They do seem a lot more rare than they were under the old system, though. Right now, I notice it very heavily when I have a Chaos and Wither resistant mob with the Blade Flurry poison, because my damage is already not that great, but then against those, it's terrible. And,
well, the reason why it's rare is because it has to roll that it's resistant to those types. Whereas before, if it was any sort of poison, it'd be like, not only does it gain Fizz's extra poison, it does extra poison damage, it has extra chance to poison, it's immune to poison. It was like all these things stacked on top of each other.
Like toxic,
and now
Chaos Weaver,
yeah, exactly. And now it's just like, oh, by the way, it's a bit more resistant, or like, oh, it focuses a bit more on the offensive. That I think is a really good change.
For the most part, I like it when, we had some of the mods that we already knew that have like a strong visual indicator in the 3D space. They're still good. They're around, you recognize them, right? But then there's some things that are just now they don't even have the color coding on the mods anymore, and they're just a line on that. There's like explodes corpses and so you just don't know beforehand.
That's actually I hate that change. That's the one thing that I hate about the new rare system is it is impossible to tell what you're fighting sometimes. You have to read like there's like I don't know, there's like 6 lines. Like
there's a combination of 3 lines in the 6 lines that make it like unkillable. And if you knew that beforehand going into the fight, you wouldn't have taken on the fight.
It's like sometimes coming to monsters, they don't have any indicators, they don't have anything on them, they don't look any different. So you're like, okay, I don't know what I'm fighting. I need to know. So and there's no easy way to tell. Before you could look very clearly. Like at a glance, you could tell. Okay, there's Chaos Weaver, Flame Weaver, for I don't know, Deadeye. You can see it very clearly.
In some ways, it got better because they're not using these really obscure names anymore. They have like precise
but these obscure
descriptions
names,
of what it does. Yeah, we learned them, but like now you don't have to learn them anymore.
Well, yeah, but now you have to read instead of reading one word.
Yeah, like what I find so weird is that like basically them removing the color coding and removing that sort of thing on the enemies was sort of a concession that they're like, oh, we realize now our game is not made anymore to read monster mods. You can't read monster mods, so we're relying on the.
I feel like it was a lot better last league for recognizing what you're fighting. It was like very, very extremely easy to tell what you're fighting like instantly.
Well, because I just think there needs to be stronger visual components to the mods that don't have them, right? Like, I mean, Chaos and Wither Resistant has this like purple thing floating around it, right? The Magma Barrier has a really clearly recognizable visual effect, but the guy that detonates corpses doesn't.
I mean, that one never had anything. You just used to see him. You just hear Desecrates, and you know. So that one is okay. You just hear Desecrates.
Otherwise, you do die to it.
Yeah.
I guess there's better examples that I can come up with right now, but yeah.
No, I
mean, I do have examples. Yeah.
The visual clarity of it is definitely worse, considering the fact that like you'd read one line, go, "Oh, I'm piecing out of here," or you'd read one line and be like, "Okay, I'm gonna take this on." Whereas right now, what it is you fight it, you get partway through, and then you go, "Oh wait, that was a bad idea."
Yeah, that's exactly how it goes for me. Yeah, I start fighting again. I'm like, "Oh, he's not dying." I guess. Yep. I don't know what's going on now.
That is indeed fair.
I'm just happy most of them are gone. I think this is mostly positive.
Beta doesn't read the monster mods anyway. Like, you think he cares? He just go in, dude. You think he's hovering over the rares, looking at what they do?
The only thing I don't know yet is whether it plays real well with Headhunter or not, because I don't care about Headhunter this league, so I haven't tested it.
You should.
What good is a Headhunter in Sanctum anyway? So
true.
Yep.
What good is a Headhunter on a Poison SRS build?
Exactly.
It's a Mage Blood league. It's fine.
Yeah. It's always been a Mage Blood league anyways.
Always has been.
Yeah.
Right. Have you guys actually had a chance to read the thread that Empyrean posted on Twitter, like just a couple hours before this?
I read the thread, but I'm not sure who he was responding to. Was he responding to Skria, or was it the other guy?
I was responding to Skria, but I wasn't like necessarily like trying to talk about the, you know, going back and forth with Skria, but it was just more about like MP pointing out where all the endgame nerfs happened, where all the juice got removed from.
So I'm chronically online, so I read all of it, but you can go ahead and explain it for the boys who haven't.
Well, I kind of wanted your opinion on it, but I guess I can explain it at first. So basically, GGG said that they're going to remove stuff from the Atlas passive tree that allowed you to invest into risk reward for endgame bosses. And that was like seen as by a lot of people, it was seen as aspirational content. And the way that GGG said it is that they are basically baking it into the base game. And now that people who are into that sort of content, farmed a lot of it, said that it's just not baked into the core game. It's just basically we're waiting for a change that needs to still happen where we get those options back, but we don't have them yet.
Yeah, to me, it feels like GGG like nerfs things and removes things without adequately saying it a lot of the time. And just kind of like layers them into patch notes. It's like, oh, this is actually a buff, by the way. Like, oh, we're changing how content is, and it's framed in such a way that like we're removing a lot of the boss options that people felt like they had to do. Because if you were doing like invitations without having like everything released at once and like I think the increased modifiers or whatever, like it just wasn't worth it. You weren't getting enough Maven splinters. But if you were running them, they were really profitable. And so by straight up removing them, there's no alternative. And so we're in this weird position where like maybe at some point in the future the change will actually be a really good one and the game will reconcile that it's a good change and we'll be in a better state overall, but we're not in that state right now. And that's what Arc Nemesis was for a number of leagues. Was like Arc Nemesis will be good. It will be the future of PoE. You will be able to read a line and at a glance determine whether or not you have a good mob to fight. But right now it feels really bad because of the current state of the game. And then spoiler alert, it was not, and it was removed. So we have a number of things in the game that are like that though, where it's like, at some point this will be reconciled. There will be buffs to this later. But right now it's dead and abandoned. And
it's pretty
isn't adequately like talked about, I feel like.
Yeah.
I do feel like sorry, cArn, to cut you off, but I do feel like sometimes this is just kind of part of the base game though. If you remember back to like there was like back in like Breach League or like Legacy League, which is pretty much around the time I started, was the popular strat was to farm strands. Everybody would run shape strands, and then they moved over to burial chambers because Empyrean Gaming and a few other people were farming burial chambers. Well, the div card rate got like changed because if everybody farmed burial chambers, then there would be 30,000 doctors in the league, and so they actively will change like these different like farming strategies that people do. I think that's just inevitably part of the game. I think that's just how the game is going to go. Now, I think the phrasing of things being like nerfed, phrasing it as a buff is kind of disingenuous in a way, and it leaves people with a sour taste in their mouth, especially because the alternative is like, hey, we're removing these endgame options, that sucks, here's these other things, and people will still be mad about it. And so they're trying to lessen the blow. Running your games is trying to lessen the blow by presenting them as buffs, but in reality they're not for the people that actually do care. So it feels kind of crappy overall. From my standpoint. Sorry to hog the floor for like 10 minutes.
No. But yeah, I agree. It's like at first I didn't read too much into it because I was like, okay, they make it there, like bake it in, but nope, they didn't. So it's like basically just no nodes and nothing changed on the baseline. So you get nothing. I did like the day I was bossing, I did like what? How many? I did like I want to say 6 twisted and like 5 forms, and I had 4 or 5 mavens. I think that's kind of despair. I was getting like what 5. I was running them rare too. I was running my invites rare, and I was getting like 5 splinters, something like this. I mean, it was not like juiced up because I hardcore had to do them reasonable. Right. So they were like what I'd say like 60 to 70 quant, something like this.
Okay.
I was getting like 50, 5 to 5, maybe 6. Between 4 and 6, I was getting splinters.
How do you feel about it, Balor?
I'm gonna be honest. I'm probably one of the people that is targeted at. So I kind of like that change because I never did bosses because I didn't want to bother respecking any of the bullshit. And now I'm doing bosses because I just can. And so I'm now doing content I wasn't doing before because I was ruled out of it because of the Atlas.
I mean, you still need to spec some.
Yeah, but that's
you need to spec the small. Yeah, I mean, like I respect for it. For example, like I spec like small Maven nodes with wandering path to do them.
Okay, this is a side note, but whoever made the little change to the respec points on the Atlas, like they added a div card that's like 1 out of 3, and it's like super common in Keurig maps. Whoever made that, bless their heart, bless their soul, because that is like one of the best changes the game has seen.
Wait, what change?
There's like a new div card that gives you some like respec points on the Atlas. I've had like 40 respec points.
The unmakings cards.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Dude, there's no. The other one is the Fertile Catalyst card on Hillock.
That one's nice.
That's a juicer. That one's a juicer, man. Like I did not do heist. I had like 30 Fertile Catalyst. I was chilling.
It does feel like it does still feel like we are missing like the second half of the change, but you know.
More to Balor's point though, as far as like I think like I've always felt like if you wanted to boss, you should have to spend something to boss. Like you should have a bossing character, and I think it's fine if you have a bossing Atlas because that's what you're, that's what you do. If you just boss just because you want to randomly, it's not going to be nearly as profitable because you're going to be fighting harder margins, right? That's how I feel about it. It's like I'm not a fan of the change. I can see why people would spawn Eater of World and they'd be like, "Yes, I spawned Eater," but I can't run it because it's gonna be more profitable to sell it. I don't care. I'm gonna be honest. Like, either you spec into it or you don't. That's my opinion.
Yeah. I would I'd be more on board with having to spec into it if I was able to have separate Atlas trees for separate characters. But
that would introduce a lot of headache. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just make a second account, dude. It's not that hard. You just level up to 95 again. You just, No, I'm not going to that kind of degeneracy, but I see your point.
Balor is considering it right now. I can see it.
He's like, he has a point. I can just do that.
I mean, I do have a second account.
Yeah, same here.
It's already step 1. 1 foot in step 2 already.
Yeah, I think it's just really easy to respec right now because of the div card, though. So it's like not worth.
Yeah. Also, Exile Influence just shits out in makings. So
yeah.
Exile Influence is actually so good that anything, if you just want a map, like you get sustain chaos, sustain sexton, sustain unmaking, sustain chisels, just doing Exile Influence. It's so good.
Wait. The general verdict is that they didn't need to make the change because we're swimming in unmakings anyway, so we could afford to respec into boss nodes and spec out of them again.
Yeah.
I think my general opinion is that things that are a nerf things that are presented as a buff that are actually a nerf are disingenuous, and I am not a fan of them. But I can kind of see where they're coming from. I think that
you're on board with the change, not with the communication. basically.
Yes.
The change itself
Yeah.
is good.
Also, because they didn't do what they said they were gonna do. When I saw the change, I was happy. I was like, oh, it's a good change. But then they didn't do what they actually said they were gonna do.
Which
They
is
just removed the nodes,
reintroduce
and
that
that's it.
power through some other mechanic, or what do
No,
you mean
through just
specifically?
in baseline. The power they removed, they said they were gonna add some of it baseline, basically.
Like,
Yeah, some of it.
The most obvious, biggest example that most people will see is when you run a synth map.
Okay.
Oh my god! Yes.
If you run a synth map, nothing drops on the floor. There are no synth items for you.
Yeah.
Yep.
We used to be able to spec into synth items and get fucking 200 synth items in a Cortex map.
All 3 lines.
Okay,
Yeah.
there would only be like 1 or 2 good items in the whole pack, but there were 200 synth items on the floor. Now you run a Cortex, there is 0.
Yeah.
4 drop from the boss, none from the map, and so we've gone from 200 and 250 synth items to 4.
My Cortex dropped 0 too, by the way. My Cortex dropped 0 synth items, and my map dropped 0 synth items. So I walked out of my Cortex with a Nebulous, and that's it.
Wow,
it was great.
Yeah. Like there are plenty of other. There are maybe even some more impactful versions than that, but that one's the most obvious that people will notice when doing it, right?
Yeah.
No.
Right. Let's see, what else do we got? I think we've all depleted us. Oh wait, I could still say something about the thing. I guess I could say that I think it's a great idea that they reserve the Atlas tree for speccing into and respeccing out of different farming strats, and that they're trying to like keep the special investment for bossing separate from the Atlas tree, and that they're saying they're looking to reintroduce that at another point through some other mechanic other than the Atlas passive tree. But then they shouldn't have taken it away right now, right? It's like sort of the same as with Harvest. They shouldn't have taken away Harvest without providing an alternative for mid-tier item progression, similar to the Fracturing Orb, right? If the Fracturing Orb would have come out the same league where they gutted Harvest so hard, it would have been a lot more acceptable.
Yeah, I mean, when the Harvest got nerfed, I was fine with it because my plan was just, I'm just gonna farm Ushabi and get Fractures and make my gear like this. But I didn't get Ushabi in over 100 tier 4 seeds, so I just,
I was really excited for the Harvest nerf, and then realized that we have no other way of getting items in like an Awakener or like Eater run, other than just you pick it up off the floor. You pick it up
in
off
these
the floor.
Runs, in these runs, that's where it was the most noticeable. It is for sure. You run
I've
up
literally
to
used an item from X6 at level like 80, 81, and I'm like, oh, cool.
Yeah. It was miserable every time. You just scroll of wisdom. That's it.
And then I go run a Harvest, and then I get like half a craft because 2 of the nodes didn't give me any juice. And I'm like, that's really cool.
Despair. Yeah. Big despair. I think that was actually the scenario where it was the most shocking. The Harvest nerf. Yeah.
Agreed.
What other things do you think in the crafting? I mean, we all agree probably that the Fracturing Orb is not everything that we need to make crafting okay, to make mid-tier item progression okay. But is there anything that you like specifically see a need for right now?
A way of like getting better items. I just think there needs to be less items on the ground and then better items on the ground. That's pretty much it. The change that they have slated for PoE2 that won't actually be out for another like 2 years.
Hang on. Do you mean the one that for that one single league happened to Talismans? Do you remember when they were good on the floor for one league?
Yeah.
That exact thing.
That was
to every piece
but
of
those
loot.
were insane. Okay, but that was insane though. Talismans were on that was Talismans on every build.
Yeah, they're cracked. Okay.
Somewhere between what we have right now and those leagues where Talismans were like giga, you know?
Okay, how about they just make map bosses have the same loot as act bosses? Like they have smart loot.
Act bosses have smart loot?
Yeah, the act bosses, they have better loot.
Yeah, they have much better loot. You kill like a regular like magic pack or maybe like a rare, and you get like a rare item or 2, you kill like Mervo, you get like 3.
Oh yeah. They give you a lot of them, but they don't have like an essentially different way how they roll, right? They don't give you more synergistic stats on the items.
No, I think they do. I think they actually have.
They do.
I think they have somewhat of like some kind of smart loot. I think. Maybe I'm talking about us, but like every single, like at least I think that's how I understood it when they made the change on Act bosses loot, and that was also my experience hiding items from Act bosses.
And that would line up with Balor saying that he's. Didn't you say that last podcast or the podcast before that, Balor, that you'd never had an easier time finding bows? Like for your bow progression?
Yeah, bows are free. They're everywhere.
I have noticed that my items in the axe are much better, and a lot of people have agreed with me on that. Like, a lot of my items, when I'm like leveling, are really, really good. Mm-hmm. But as soon as I hit maps, they're all garbage. I can't ID anything.
Was that only at League Start or even in your speedruns?
Both, yeah, speedruns and League Start.
Yeah, because League Start, League Start was nuts. My gear was insane at League Start. I think everybody had the same experience. Like the loot was like really good.
I don't necessarily think that like good loot equals good league, but I do think that like you know,
I mean, in Axe it's nice,
more meaningful. It's like
it doesn't hurt.
Yeah. I think there is a point where it does hurt, where it's like, wow, this is way too plentiful. Like I'm getting stuff way too often, and now there's not as much to grind for because I'm not as excited anymore because everything's good. There's a point of that, but we're not at that point yet. So
I mean, items don't need to be insanely good for you to like have a feeling that you're getting good items. It just needs to be the right item at the right point in time, right? It doesn't have to be
completely trash like they currently are. I'd be like 100 amulets, and I'm like, cool, I'm still using the reward from Act 3.
Yeah. Jewelry is our nightmare right now. Like to make, they're actually impossible to make. You can't essence them. You can't really alt or like chaos them. There's too many trash mods on them. Like, it's so hard to make jewelry right now. It's like you hit 2 mods and you're like, all right, time to spend 4 divines to finish it. Like, it's rough.
I've made so many good mid-tier item sales with that though, like with like farming just vulnerability, despair on hit rings and delve, and like IDing random +1 amulets and selling them. But I guess that goes both ways. Like, I mean, if it's hard to get, then they're valued high, and then the people pay for it, right?
Yeah. Sure.
Can't really use the profit as an argument for the system being okay.
I guess that's the one place where harvest is still useful. It's like to make jewelry. I mean, that's the only way to make jewelry anyway. It's like you have to throw thousands and thousands of life force at stuff. Necks and rings.
And ROG is a good point. ROG is actually...
Yeah, ROG too. I mean, everything is ROG, honestly, right now. It's like your gear day 1, day 2 is just ROG. You just go to ROG, massage his feet, eventually gives you something.
Oh, I made such good items with ROG this league, yeah.
Do you have any questions regarding racing at all?
I have written down that I wanted to ask you about the racing. But is there any pressing topics for racing that you want to bring up? That's kind of what I wanted to talk about. I just put down loose points in regards to the mobility skills, the defensive meta, and the state of melee. But like, if there's anything that you would like to bring up or like make a topic specifically, then I'd probably prefer that.
No, I like those points. I was just going to talk about how movement skills are in a pretty bad state right now because pretty much you can only really compete with like Leap Slam Frostblink, and there's no alternative whatsoever. Like there's no reason to use Flame Dash because Flame Dash sucks. Dash as a gem sucks. Frostblink sucks. I mean, these are both gems that you get a level 4, so you're just using them temporarily, right? But gems like, like Blink Arrow just aren't competitive with Leap Slam Frostblink. And I think we're going to see a Smoke Mine 2.0 situation where I'm like, yes, Smoke Mine is great. Every skill should be brought up to be similar to this gem, and then what actually happens is Smoke Mine is nerfed to be as bad as every other gem. And so now I'm in a very scared position as a very meek little nervous racer.
Do you think that that's Leap Slam Frostblink, or do you think it's just a Frostblink plus? Because I've also found pretty good experiences with, like, depending on the build, obviously, Shield Charge Frostblink and Whirling Blades Frostblink. Both feel really good depending on the build I'm playing.
Shield Charge Frostblink isn't as good as Leaf Stem Frostblink.
Yeah,
I think Will and Blade is. Sorry.
Shield Charge isn't as good because it comes online better. Leap Slam you equip and you're pretty much good to go from like level 10 onwards.
Fair enough.
Yeah, Leap Slam is better out of the box, but Shield Charge is better when you have like quick servers and like high move speed boots and all that shit.
You get the Turbo Quicksilver, you got like 30 MS boots, you've got like, Onslaught from Leap Slam, you just like you put maybe a little bit of attack speed and you're
it's online level 16 basically,
Yeah, online level 18 with the faster, and then you're logging
16.
Well, 16 because of Blood Rage, but 18 gives faster, which makes you much better.
Is it 18?
Yeah, 18 is faster attacks.
Oh yeah, it's 18. Right,
or is in Blood Rage.
Yeah, I'm cooked.
I've always found that such a weird one. But there's like two tiers of where gems become available at 16 and 18.
It makes a lot of sense once you get to that point of racing where you're like, oh, these are the level 8 gems and these are level 10 gems. But as a new player, or even as an experienced player that doesn't really care about racing that much, it's a really confusing system.
No, it's just like from 8 to 10, it makes sense. It's just like I'd expect at that level to already have like 4 level gaps in between it or something like that. Sure, it makes sense with the progression and the points that the quests are completed and the gems are handed out. But yeah.
I mean, the 18 gems are handed from reward from doing Weber, whereas the 16s are from
Fidelitas.
Wait, do you think Leaf Slam is you think Leaf Slam is that much better than is it even better than Whirlwind Blade? Because I feel like Whirlwind Blade is better just because you get to dual wield with it. You have so much more speed.
You get a dual wield with, but you can also dual wield like scepters as a caster.
And well, I guess for caster,
because that's the state of racing, right? Since Helix got nerfed, and Helix was like, we were in a really cool state where instead of going the meta cuck armor brand Kruma, you could actually just go Helix Champ. And I actually got world record a couple times on Helix Champ over the duelist time or over the caster time. But if you really pushed both builds, you could get about the same time. And now that Helix is like turbo giga nerf for leveling, like we're back to caster. We're back to the same build.
I think it's like it's 100% going back to casters. Like Helix is still fine, but you need a weapon and you need links now.
Exactly.
So it's like, it's rough. So basically, I think now Helix is like as good, if maybe even worse than Sunder. I'm not even sure what's better right now between Helix and Sunder.
Really?
Yeah,
I've had people start with Helix.
Sunder is fast. Sunder is fast. Yeah, it is the same speed as Helix, I think. The problem, I think if you try it, you'll be surprised. It's the same speed because he plays a bit like Armor Krima. You just throw one and you just fucking run.
True.
You throw one, it's gonna kill everything. Yeah. And then when there's like something that's tanky, you just intimidating cry and boom, you pop it. It's actually surprisingly fast when I did some tests. I think it was like similar speed on both because the only problem with Sunder was like you need weapon, you need links, and that's the same problem with the Helix. So it's like, and I think in some second part, well, I don't know if you're talking just to Act 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to Act 5.
I mean, Act 5 or even like just beyond, just like leveling like a League Star character and having a fast, smooth.
Yeah, like part 2, Sunder actually like is actually really fast. It's actually I think it's faster than Bone Shadow part 2, for example.
Faster than Helix?
There's a lot of things that are kind of like that.
Yeah.
I've played Sunder and Ruthless. I played on my first. Sorry, I'll just quickly finish that thought. Played Sunder and Ruthless, and I thought it was terrible. I died in the Ascent. But I've had people tell me who never played Helix before. Yeah, true. I mean, I didn't have support gems. I had like faster attacks, and that's it. But I've had people tell me who never played Helix before that they were like, "Wow, Helix is so good for leveling." And then I told them, "Dude, it lost like 40% damage this patch. It went from 250 to 150."
Yeah. Helix is still fine. It's just that you rely, like before, the way you level with Helix, you would not look at your weapon, you would not look at your links. You just go.
You just equip it and you just go, exactly.
You just equip a white base and you just go. You don't care.
Yeah, and now he essentially went from needing a 3-link to needing a 4-link.
Now you need at least a rustic recipe and like 3 4-link at least in like I'd say Act 4 you kind of want your 4-link.
Agreed.
So that's not even the worst. But then looping back to the movement skills, like, are there other stages at which, like, I mean, Frostblink, Flame Dash, bullshit. Frostblink, Leap Slam isn't good everywhere, right? Like, I mean, if you have to dodge a beam by jumping over it, that's still only possible with Flame Dash. Over it. You can Frostblink over it?
Yeah, you can.
For a lot of stuff. Like, I use Frostblink very regularly when I'm, like, even doing, like, you know, piety and stuff. Just chilling.
Right.
Yep.
Frostblink's an instant movement skill every time you use it, and so, like, there's a lot of cases where, like, you could either use Frostblink or you could use Leap Slam. It doesn't make any difference.
I really enjoyed that for channeling, because Blade Flurry, as you all may know, is a channeling skill. And then while leveling, I was using Frostblink, and then you can, like, channel your your Blade Flurry and then Frostblink while you have the 6 stacks up, and then release after you Frostblinked into the pack.
Or you just never release and just keep Frostblinking forward.
Well,
actually, if you hit,
I need to release every once in a while.
Yeah, gotta empty the tank.
Right. And then the defensive meta, is that something, because I've heard a lot of people, like, being reasonably upset about how every build now needs Grace, Determination, and Defiance banner. But do you think that's actually a really pressuring issue?
It is a pretty pressing issue. We just need, like, more alternatives, I think. Like, spell suppression was made to be a little bit too hard to get, in my opinion. And, like, it's a little too strong. Like, it's a little too good to, like, not pass up. Whereas before it'd be like, okay, you slept on, like, one defensive layer. I don't think it's necessarily a huge problem in, like, Act 5 speedrunning, but the game throws a lot at you that you have to, like, mitigate later on, to the point where, like if you play a build like BalorMage's, you should be immortal. Like, if you're slapping on Tempest Shield, you're block capped, you're suppression capped, you're, you know, all this other juice, like, yeah, you should be pretty much immortal. The issue is that, like, you have to reach, like, about that same level to actually feel immortal. Whereas, like, you know, maybe, like, a little bit less defensively to feel as good.
I'm a big fan of being able to build an immortal character. I should be able to do that in an RPG, but
it's a little. It's
the
very
low end is the issue, right?
Yes. The low end, more like the low end is a bit of the issue. It's just when your character's not geared, you know. It's just that, like, oh, I'm 7 hours in, I'm fighting, you know, the quest versions of the bosses, and I'm turbo weak, and I'm, you know, maybe that's on me. Maybe I should just stay and farm, like, yellow maps instead of pushing my quest versions of the bosses at the time. But I don't know. I think it's just kind of comes back to the availability of good gear, right? Defenses just feel kind of bad because gear is kind of bad.
So for you, defense is a problem, as in we don't have enough?
It's not that I want to use, like, Grace 2.0 and Determine 2.0. I just think that these are, like, mandatory things that a lot of builds need to use, especially for, like, running and just, like, playing the game normally. Whereas, like, it would feel better if I didn't have to do that on every single build, you know, because I had alternatives that I could listen to.
Yeah, it's like almost
like 45, for example, you know.
Whoa. Yeah, like 45 on my spellcasters, you know. Nah.
It's almost like they overshot it a little bit. I mean, I remember not too long ago, before they made the changes to Determination and Grace, that those auras weren't even worth considering at all. Like, you run offensive auras 10 out of 10 times over those. And I think it's great that they're worth running now. But it seems like it's the other way around now, where, you know,
too mandatory that 10 out of 10 builds have to run Grace or Determine. Yep.
I think the main problem is, like, they will always balance the game around these defenses existing. So you actually have to do them. Like, you could say, like, okay, it's a choice. You have the option. You can build a defensive character, or you can just get more damage. But they always rebalance the game around these defenses being available. Like, for example, spell suppression. Like, the casters in the game did not do the damage they do right now. They very clearly retweaked. They clearly tweaked the damage, the numbers on the spellcasters in the game to match spell suppression.
For months?
Yeah, for monsters. Like, scaly mages, goats, we're not doing this before, man. Like scaly mages in particular, like they're actually insane now. Like one singular scaly mage can kill you if he has LMP. One white scaly mage will kill you if you don't have suppression. He has LMP, and if you're point blank, like it's actually absurd the damage they do, just because they're just rebalancing around suppression. So now suppression is mandatory, but it's not accessible to as easily accessible to every build because So it's it feels kind of bad. Like I don't like when they add options, but then they just basically counteract all this new stuff they added by just
it's not an option anymore because you have to do it.
It's not an option. It's just like, okay, we give you spell suppression, you take half spell damage, we're gonna double or triple the damage on all the casters. There it is.
So in a way, defensives are in a better state than they used to be, but I think they could be better, and they're not in a particularly interesting or fun state at the moment.
Yeah. The term suppression, every character.
Grace suppression, every character.
Well, I mean, it is kind of different for the Sanctum, if I may add that, because in the Sanctum, determination grace doesn't really help you. So I've switched out my grace for haste in the Sanctum just to be able to maneuver and position better around the guards.
Makes sense.
Well, actually, grace is good in Sanctum.
Grace is good in Sanctum?
I mean, if you evade the attacks, they do resolve damage, you don't take resolve damage.
But I thought your defenses don't work for resolve damage.
Do they not work at all? Like even on attacks?
I think like it's based on like proximity, so that like melee isn't get good gimped. But if you're like the most unkillable character ever, but you do 0 damage, you're still gonna fail the Sanctum.
So they can't miss basically the monsters. Is that what you're saying? The attacks can't miss.
Well, I mean,
your grace doesn't. Your evasion doesn't play into it. Maybe they have a hit chance, but it's not influenced by your evasion.
Otherwise, everybody would be running around with like these turbo safe like builds. But instead, it's just like high single target.
Yeah, I mean, sure, okay. But I actually didn't know.
I think that was a question because one of the first questions that was asked was like, "Isn't everybody just going to play an evasion character?" And it's like,
okay.
My understanding of it could be wrong because I haven't actually.
No, it makes more sense. It does make more sense. Yeah, I just didn't really think about it honestly.
Yeah, in the same way. I also switch out my defensive flask when I go into the Sanctum. Save up my 8 rooms and then like switch my flask setup, switch my aura setup, and then go into Sanctum mode.
Sanctum mode.
Yeah, because it's so essentially different from how you play the rest of the game, right? Because in regular PoE, you're just used to building your character so that it can just, survive with everything around you. And in Sanctum, you all of a sudden have to pay very close attention to your positioning.
No, you're right.
And to some degree, I actually wish that the normal game cared a little bit more about that. That it wasn't wasn't as much about killing monsters before they have a chance to react.
Yeah,
I mean, ruthless.
Anything else? Ruthless.
No, I mean, like we had a good run. I mean, unless you want to like quickly say something about melee, but like I think we've touched on melee as well. Like one thing specifically I was curious about, and that was the whole like strike skill thing with the mastery being removed. cArn, do you want to quickly talk about that? Like, because now you've played with it, you've played Bone Shatter despite that nerf, and is it like GGG said it should be fine without it?
I mean, of course it was not fine. I tested before the patch. I already knew how it was gonna be. Like in like early game, it feels really bad early game, like really bad because you don't have speed, you don't have you don't have anything. You don't have enough speed and mobility. Like when you first, like in Axe, for example, like when you first swap, it feels really bad. In maps, it also feels bad because it means like every pack oftentimes takes you 2 hits instead of 1. For example, if it's a pack you would one shot, you would have to seal like there's like the backline doesn't get hit because you don't get the second. Like I showed in one of my, I made a clip like for that where to showcase it where you have +1 strike. You invest in an extra strike, but you don't get it because it doesn't reach the monsters. Like you can be in attack range, but not in extra strike range, because it doesn't inherit your strike range without that mastery. Like that mastery is the only way to increase the range at which your ancestral guy is gonna give you an extra strike. That was the only thing that was impacting it. You can have +1000 strike range. It will not matter if you will not hit further than, like, I don't know how many units it is, like 10 or something. It's pretty bad, especially for single tag. I think the worst part is for the bossing. The bossing is atrocious now. Like,
yeah, I'd say. Yeah, go ahead.
Especially since when you get too close to monsters as well, you also don't hit them. Like if you're too close, it's like some sort of dead zone. I don't know. It's been like this for a long time, so it's really bad right now. Like, especially for bossing. For bossing, mapping eventually, okay, you have enough speed. You just and you have enough defenses, because that's also the problem. When you don't have enough defenses to just jump in the middle of a pack and survive, then
you fall over.
Yeah, yep. So that's a problem. Like early game, for example, when you try to push like really fast, like for example, like in the speed runs, whatever, like you would like try to hit the packs like at the edge of the pack, not in the middle of it, so you don't get blown up by scaly mages or goats, whatever. But like with that change, you actually can't do that. If you do that, you just hit half of it, and then so basically your clear speed is like half. Yep. In that scenario.
Is it the
so it is a pretty much good. Go ahead, Tai Tai.
No, I was just gonna say that melee overall just feels like it's in a bad state, because they'll sacrifice one archetype, like they sacrifice like dual wielding for slams to exist, and then they nerf slams to the point where they're pretty unusable, and now we're in a state where like dual wielding is still dead because slams were, introduced as the dual wield killer. And now melee overall just feels like, not purely abandoned, because you can still obviously play it, but you compare any sort of melee league starter to poison seismic, or even like lightning conduit, or a handful of other skills, and it's like it's not even close to cold dot even.
I mean, poisonous concoction is like prime example. I think you play it on League Start. I leveled with it myself. It's so
compare
strong.
That poison skill to other poison archetypes, like it's not close.
You compare it to a skill that needs an actual weapon. Like that's the problem. You get like damage for free without getting upgrades every 10 levels, and it's better than if you actually got a top of the line weapon at the time with another skill.
Part of the cool part about the skill, though, is you're sacrificing that. They'll sacrifice that, though.
Well, I mean, you're right. I mean, it's cool that it doesn't use a weapon and that you give up the sockets. It just, I don't know, shouldn't be baseline more powerful.
Fair.
I feel like it's a little bit on the strong side for not using a weapon. But yeah, like you said, you also by not using a weapon, you're giving up something. So yeah, maybe you should be compensated for that.
Yep. Drew.
Right. Drew. I think that touched about everything that we want. Unless you want to bring up a specific point that you have that you want to talk about. I think this is the point where we'll tell the people what our plans are for the immediate future, and where they can find us, and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So my name's Tytykiller. You can find me at Twitch TV Tytykiller. I do some YouTube videos when I find something cool or fun that inspires me to make a video about. Other than that, should be playing Dragonflight, watching anime, and hanging out. I'll probably do a Flicker Strike from scratch character, so partway through the trade league, I'll be making some character where I have to use Flicker Strike from level 10 onwards, and that's the only main gem I can use to make like a mirror in a couple weeks.
Ooh, that's badass. I'm watching this.
All right.
I log in, dude. That's my idea for content.
Listen, if you do that, there better be videos of like reports of progress, because
that's the idea behind it.
Yeah,
I'm bad at making videos, but I would like to do something like that. So some nice little content. Like, here's my Flicker Strike character at level 12 on Mervale, and I get to attack once every 10 seconds.
Do you get to like buy an Oros or something? Or you start from scratch?
Well, no. I mean, obviously, I got to use like a 1-link totem, but I'm not allowed to like link up the totem. Otherwise, you'd see me leveling up a 6-link totem and a 4-link Flicker Strike, and that's not a Flicker Strike character. That's a totem character. So I'm not allowed to do that. So I'm walking around with my 1-link protector. Might take me a few hours, but yeah. Hey, we'll get to Terminus someday.
Wait, you might be as fast to level that character to maps as like an average person playing a proper build.
It's probably still gonna be faster.
Who knows? We'll see.
It'll
be a while. It'll be fun.
I think Flicker Strike is really terrible, and especially for the mechanics. So it's great that you're not enjoying the mechanics. So you have a reason to not play it when you're playing Flicker Strike.
Flicker Strike's good once you're like 10 mil DPS on Flicker, and then you're like gaming, and then you're popping off.
Val Flicker is cool though. Val Flicker is something I wanna maybe make a build with. Val Flicker is some cool stuff you can do with.
I'm a weeb, so of course the skill looks cool. Flicker.
Oh my god! You need like a macro that plays some clip every time you press Val Flicker.
I'm a weeb, but I'm not like cringe, At least I'm like
Master Yi voice lines.
I'm good. Go ahead, cArn.
I'm cArn. Twitch TV.com/cArn_. I'm actually not sure what I'm gonna be doing now. I'm probably gonna either reroll to make a Void Forge Bloodthirst character and try to farm Ubers on it, or I'll practice Gauntlet. I'm not 100% sure yet. I might probably just reroll and do that. Farm Void Forge and gear for it. Farm some Ubers on it. See how it goes. But yeah, we'll see. I'm still in a post-reap depression.
Void Forge is hype
with me.
Huh?
Watching some World Cup with me.
Yeah.
Void Forge is a really sick item.
I think Grimro said he also wants to make a Void Forge Cyclone.
Okay, I'm not Cyclone though.
Yeah, Duckleaf.
I also want to make a Void Forge build, by the way.
It's also not Cyclone.
Mine's going to be Chains of Command, though.
Oh my god, he's doing the same things he wants to do. He's told me the same thing. He was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get a Void Forge. I'm gonna put it on my AG." I'm like, "No, dude, no. You have to swing it yourself."
No, this is the best use. No. Change the command. Let's go.
Sounds really disgusting.
Oh, no. Yeah, and then he's gonna die to some random stuff. He's gonna enter.
My Animate Guardians don't die. I know how to build them.
Yeah, the first Uber is gonna enter. Is gonna die to it. No. You know it.
Nope.
Yes.
He's immortal. Yes. My Animate Guardian is immortal.
You're dumb. You're wrong.
Pretty sure he died to Uber Cyrus, but yeah, I don't know.
I'm telling you, the first Uber entry is gonna be expensive. -1 Void Forge.
He won't die.
Right. For sure, you can get a crafted mod that's like your AG drops items on death. So
that only works for the item it's crafted on.
Yeah, and you can only craft it on chest pieces.
It only drops that piece of gear.
It now makes sense why every minion player is upset their Anime Jordan dice. I'm always like, dude, what's the problem? It drops the item. It does, doesn't it? Holy shit, you like... Wow. So wait, since Arcnem has come out and minion players just lose all their AG items, huh?
Yep.
I see.
Oh, man.
The removal of Arch Nemesis allowed my Animate Guardian to live again. So, I'm fine.
Damn.
I can make an Animate Guardian that can live through every single Uber. No problem. Guaranteed. I can absolutely do that. Arch Nemesis still killed them. So,
Alchemist was cool, huh?
Fixed now,
really
though.
Cool system, I think. Yeah, very cool system.
Yeah.
All right.
Right. Balor, what are your videos that are coming out now? You said there's 2 more videos coming.
There's 2 more coming.
That's the reason you did not sleep 3 hours last night.
We're doing real high budget upgrades of the SRS build because it's gross and I'm really enjoying it. And I've also got a video coming out about a reading I did from the chat GPT bot where I asked it to predict what the next PoE leagues could be. It predicted a boat league for us, and then it described the boat league and gave us an entire intro script. So I'm putting all those clips together and making a video out of it. ChatGPT has confirmed a boat league. Just saying.
The Deep Sea League. It's not exactly a boat league. It's more like a submarine league.
Listen, man, that boat league meme sounds like the Millibuff league meme.
So we're gonna have a melee league. We're gonna have a bow league too, right after.
Yeah. At the same
One
time,
day, dude.
So at the same time, dude.
3.33.
Kind of content?
Me? I don't do content.
Oh, no content stream? Hey, you're just like me then.
Nah.
Content.
I'll try and make my Blade Flurry better so I can eventually do the red map Sanctums well with it. It's like, I mean, the thing is we got buffs to the Sanctum, right? They made the Sanctum a little bit easier. That they nerfed one of the bosses, they made resolve damage taken less at close melee range, and they've done some things so I might have an easier time. And I've been learning it. Like I've been running it on white map levels and completed one, and now I'm doing yellow map levels and hoping that I can do that. So eventually maybe I can do it on red map levels. Who knows? And if I can't, then I'll just blame the build because the build is really bad.
Well, then you blame GGG. What do you mean?
Yeah.
It's so simple. You take to the forums, you take to Reddit, and you win. What are they gonna do?
What am I winning?
You know what's sad about you wanna know what's sad about Blade Fury? Evolve Blade Fury is actually a caster skill.
Oh, yeah. It's so good for casters.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Just like everything. How you just use Evolve Blade Fury to tank stuff?
You just use one link
50%
Blade Flurry and you press it to tank abilities that you shouldn't be able to.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. The 50%.
Cyrus Meteor, what am I gonna do? Oh no, never mind. I'll just click Evolve Blade Fury.
Yeah, this is great.
and the thing is, even as a caster, you don't have a lot of attack speed, so it even takes you longer to ramp up. It lasts
that was
longer.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was explaining when I read the thing. Like the same thing. That was the first thing that came to my mind. You play caster.
I didn't think about it immediately, but my friend is abusing it very hard in trade.
Yeah, I mean, of course he is. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Throw your seismic traps and sit in Evolve Blade Fury. Oh, let's go, dude.
Holy
man.
Oh god. So that's not gonna last for very long. That means we have to abuse this league, right?
Surely it won't last very long.
It's gonna get killed. Evolve Blade Fury is gonna die. Evolve Blade Fury is gonna die because of caster, just like Evolve Ground Slam did.
Just like everything else.
Yeah, just like everything else just dies because caster's taking our shit.
Just move over to the, well, I want to call it the dark side, but let's call it the bright side, where, builds a good
greener side,
play casters.
Side.
Yeah.
In Gauntlet, I'm playing a caster because what else am I going to play?
You logging on the seismic trap?
I mean, it's probably going to getting banned, dude. Let's be real.
True. What are we playing then?
Cold Dot if it's not banned. If it's banned, the next thing.
Yeah, Cold Dot Trickster.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll see.
Well, we've certainly managed to fill all the time and even more than planned with interesting conversation. If you guys missed the beginning of the podcast, make sure to check it out in full on YouTube, where it will be 24 hours after this live cast, as well as on all podcast platforms. We got another podcast currently lined up for the early day GMT of the 24th. So somewhere early. I'll announce that when we got it all together, still talking to people. But probably it's going to be with Tenki and someone else. I can say that already. And I think that's really all I wanted to say. Guys, no, there's one really important thing I want to say. Thank you, Tyty, and thank you, cArn, for coming on here and spending your time with us and spilling your knowledge all over us, blessing us with your race juices. And
thanks for the invite.
Yeah, thank you.
No, thanks for coming on. I'm hyped to see you guys dominate the gauntlets and all that. Although Tyty, you're more the Atziri rusher or something like that, right?
You can see me on speedrun. Yeah. I'll just be practicing my speedruns against me, myself, and I, and I'll be like, "Wow, a new world record!" And then I look at the speedrun.
I'm coming for you for the.
It's me.
But when Gauntlet comes around, you're doing the rank one, the first Atziri kill rush again, right?
I don't think I've done well in those races. I don't think I've ever won an Atziri race, and I don't think we're.
Yeah, you always first to get there. You're also first to die to it.
First to die to Atziri. Yep, exactly.
First to die to Atziri.
He knows. Yeah, like every time too.
Yeah.
All right, I gotta finish the other half of my big sandwich. So
yeah, bounty potential. Well, thanks for coming on, and we'll see you all around and celebrate your success. Thanks, guys, and until next time, bye.